Frozen Horse stood no chance. I knew it all along.
Congratulations, guys. So, yes, shout out to Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. HeroQuest fans, we're here with Count Cogpox, Jacer, Ribby, and many of our fans in the chat. Fubar is saying there's just 4 elf heroes for the solo quest. This elf is a knight, this elf is a dwarf, this elf is an elf. They're all elf friends, is what I would say, using the Tolkien terminology. So Hispazargon says, things are going bad there. Monks on Twitch yet? Ogres already have 5 body points. No monsters cut should be needed. Maybe the elves stat, but that's all. Rise of the Dreadmoon is much better than people think. Yeah, I think we'll be pleasantly surprised. Melon. Yes. Have a nice weekend. Thanks, Hispazargon. I appreciate you showing up. It was an honor. And I do want to say that the 5 body point thing is not a given. I've already decided that at least one of those ogres is going to have 10 body points. I'm not going to say which one. As far as the others, we'll just kind of see how it goes. I mean, I'm kind of that opinion. I mean, with this, I gave the heroes a lot more options and chances because I knew it was horribly broken. But towards the end, like the 9 and 10 quest, you'll notice I brought in the Zargon cards. Because by then, I felt you guys were strong enough that you could use a little bit more random chaos, so to speak. And of course, I had many more cards saved up, so I knew that the final battle was going to be a little bit different. So now I will say all of these skill cards get swapped out. So we'll have fresh ones for the next beginning, but yeah, so why don't you guys just tell me your thoughts. So we were talking about the future of HeroQuest. Now that we know what we know from Gen Con, yes, the Wandering Monk. I mean, I'm going to be printing out cards, basic cards to use him in the quest. We can play test him even before he comes out officially. So he can be one of the heroes. I mean, as you've seen, I have no problem playing with more than 4 heroes.
I think 5 is fair for a lot of these like Frozen Horrors. I mean, 6 is too much, I feel like, but that's just, you can make it work.
I think for Rise of the Dreadmoon, I'm going to cap it at 4, but then even as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, but we're adaptable. I can just throw in...
Yeah, you could throw another monster here or there.
Yeah, exactly. Because they cap the mercenaries at 4.
That's true. I mean, but you could have, if everybody had... Yeah. In Dreadmoon, it's 4 in all, which I think was to the fact that, hey, in Frozen Horror, you could have, 12?
Yeah.
In all, or what was the total?
The original Frozen Horror, there were only 6 in the box. But, yeah, in the remake, they did 12, which I assume they didn't really... Because they didn't give any indication that they were going to change stuff. I think they were still operating from that, players want everything the same as it always was, no changes. I think they just put 12 in the box because they were using like new sculpts and they didn't want to have detachable weapons.
Right.
Because it's like this way you can have a completely different pose, completely different, sex of the character, like totally different design rather than just. I mean, I'd be cool with the next ones if you pull it off and you just put the weapon on, and they could have a bulky character with a helmet or something. You don't know if it's a man or woman.
Well, I've had I've attempted I have Games Workshop models as well. I've attempted the method that expert Games Workshop modelers like, which is to put magnets on the weapons and put them in the hands of the units. It works terribly. It is not great.
Well,
they fall off all the time.
Yeah. I'm sure it matters what kind of glue you're using, right?
Well, I've actually tried there's a magnet method where you put these tiny they're just not strong enough.
Yeah, I've seen Always Bored, Never Boring do that.
Yeah,
Warhammer stuff.
And,
on paper it's great.
Does it too.
Yes.
Painting. Yeah,
you gotta
they
glue
make
them.
It look like it's this very clean, perfect solution.
It's not. Yeah. I like that you're willing to do to mod the coming expansions up, because I see there's other content creators out there. I've seen Amalgamash talk about. He's very much in the camp of the new Ash Quest channel. I've seen in the camp of, hey, don't change any of the original material, and I can respect that, because the ogre body point thing was a big deal for some people. I like that they went through and reevaluated it, because to me it's a stepping stone for, hey, we're going to run through these expansions in a couple of years, guys, and we're going to start into the realm of new content. And so we're going to be there anyway. We're going to be in a realm of, you're going to have to bridge the gap between the original content and the way the math worked to the way they're going to start releasing content 2 years from now. So I'm okay with that. I'm to me, I think that was them testing the water on how willing are the super fans to accept a modification on the original content. I'm okay with it myself. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Go ahead, you guys talk, and then I'll give my opinion.
Well, yes, especially since going beyond Mage of the Mirror against the Ogre Horde probably needs more quests. Wizard Morcar
definitely
probably needs serious tuning and playtesting. So I'm down. I'm 100% on board with changes for those.
They've been respectful, I think, with the minor changes. They could have done more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, they're doing what they can to listen. I think at the very, very start of all this, I was worried that, they're only going to listen to a few people on Twitter. And those people are going to skew it for everyone else. Thankfully, they're smarter than that. They've done more research. But if they just listen to people on the internet, you're going to get, crossbow strings breaking when you roll 2 black shields. And you're going to get no rolling the movement. And you're going to get, there's all these, you got to walk up to the chest to open it. There's certain things that just never die. They never go away. I don't know if people actually play that way. But any list of, ways to make HeroQuest better, it's always that stuff. I feel like it's just copied and pasted. Maybe there are people who really like to play that way, and I think more power to them. But I guess my big point is, I get what Amalgamash is saying. Because I believe that even he doesn't play it straight out of the box, exactly according to the rules. He interprets the stuff, he mods stuff just like everyone else. But he's wanting everyone to start from that base level of, this is how it was originally written and released, and there's that integrity of it. Even though from a collector standpoint, okay, I can't buy the ElfQuest pack because it's $3,000. So whether I 3D
the originals,
whether I 3D print it myself or proxy it with other stuff, or I buy the remake, I'm still buying a new product. I'm still making a new product. It's not that original that Milton Bradley wrote, in 1992. So from that standpoint, I'm playing a new game. But there's still this idea that that's what was first written. So I should try that at least and see if it works. Then when I realize it doesn't work, then I come up with my own solution. But it's not mandated from above that they're going to say, well, this is how we intend you to play it. So I think from that standpoint, you're going to get against the Ogre Horde and go, this is kind of broken. And then you're going to change it. And it's going to be different than someone else's. And that's fine. But he still wants it to be at the beginning. So I kind of agree with him in that sense. But I also agree with Chris Nato's statement. And I'm not saying that to suck up, because he's, the head of the project, has been really nice to us. But because I get the point that we're talking about expansions now. So you're already assuming a basic level of familiarity with the game. Not everybody is going to buy these expansions that has the base game. So it's a higher hardcore step up. Now it's true, you do get those kids that are oh, hey, it's Christmas and here's HeroQuest, and you open up the second box, and it's the expansion. It's there's that. But a lot of people, it's no, you try out the base game first, and that was good enough, and then you go play Fortnite or whatever. Not everybody is going to move on, but once they are excited for these new expansions, they already have that experience of making their own quests, making modifications, they're going to be easily able to fix it. At the same time, in their favor for making changes and tweaks, is that these expansions were not played by as many people, so they have less nostalgia attached to them. Like less, you better not change this, going for it. So like Keller's Keep, Return of the Witch Lord, they probably couldn't have made very many changes. People would get upset. Same thing with the game system. Frozen Horror, Mage of the Mirror, not very many people played them. It was more just the idea of this is the one that got away. And I think, I don't know for sure, but from what I gather, Against the Ogre Horde and Wizards of Morcar were kind of like that in Europe too. But I don't know 100%. Like, I just have a couple opinions from a couple European players, what they thought of those. But of the two, I think Wizards of Morcar definitely has more of a negative opinion. Like, people will say, well, it was kind of short and it was kind of OP and it's more just using the assets to make your own adventures. Which we understand, but not all the new fans are going to understand. They're going to read reviews, parents are going to read reviews and go, gee, this one isn't very good, let's just not get it. Just make your own quests. Elberg says, Mage of the Mirror, Ogre changes were the first clue we were getting it Against the Ogre Horde. Texie88, hey, welcome. Says, oh, I remember this finale only too well. Nice. So, yeah, some people did. So you played this back in the day. I played Against the Ogre Horde, but and this was maybe like 5 years ago now, we played like the first 4 quests out of the 7. But we were using Phoenix's mod, where he converted to the North American rules. And that's another thing. A lot of people were thinking, well, if they release it as is, okay, so you're fighting Morcar, and half the monsters have 1 body point, you use the variable body points. There's different rules for the traps, so there's a few places where you could get... Like, if you use the North American rules, there's a few places where you can get trapped. Like, not dead, but like the falling block trap will fall, and then you're just trapped in a room and you can't get out. Unless you have passed through rock.
Well, that I really hope this is just a bias thing. I would like them to convert the concept. I don't like the roll for the body points and the 1 body point rule. I would prefer them attempt to adapt it to North American rule set with static.
But see, if they already have their foot in the door, like, we're already expecting them to change the rules. That gives them even more of an opening to say, well, what other kind of tweaks could we make? Keeping the basic theme, keeping the basic structure, the features people are looking for, the miniatures and tiles people are looking for, but then updating it. And here's where they can really do their research. I mean, find those European forums and channels and players. I know about Cristobal at The Path of Morcar, the Spanish channel. I know about Always Bored, Never Boring, English. There's a few more people there's some French guys on Twitch. There's a German guy. There's like all kinds of people that I'm probably have no idea just because I don't speak the language. But get those people's feedback. Talk to them. Find out what they've done for Against the Ogre Horde, Wizards of Morcar, and you could kind of see, like, okay, what kind of changes would people naturally be making anyway, and that could kind of guide you to making it more fun, more complete. But just writing more quests, it's like, okay, well, what would the quests be? I was trying to think. Maybe Against the Ogre Horde, you could have some quests where you're recruiting ogre mercenary to come with you, or something like that. Like
various tribes or something.
Yeah, or you're looking for clues or something. With the Wizards of Morcar, I mean, again, if they don't combine the two together, like you defeat the ogres, then you go after the lieutenant. There could be some quests where you learn the new magic, like you unlock the new magic spells, because there's a whole new magic system for the wizard and the elf to use. They also could dig into the draft notes. I mean, we still don't know if they're going to make a separate dwarf and wizard quest pack. I mean, they already basically freed themselves from saying, like, oh, we're obligated to follow what was written before. But they've still got ideas to mine out of those. So they could take some of those ideas from those 2 unreleased quest packs and throw those in wherever they wanted. So, I mean,
I hope they do.
There's all kinds of monsters.
That's me. I mean, I'm looking forward to see it.
Yeah, you've got rat people, you've got giant spiders, you've got centaurs, you've got evil dwarves. You've got, of course, more sex-swapped heroes. You've got evil wizards. You've got apprentice wizards that you can recruit. I mean, there's just all kinds of things. And yes, they were planning to reuse European stuff in these North American packs anyway, so you kind of have a correspondence there. Like, the dwarf was going to be facing, like, ogre chieftains and champions and lords, and the wizard was going to be fighting sorcerers similar to the Wizards of Morcar. But, yeah, they wouldn't have to change the title to Wizards of Zargon. It could be Wizards of Morcar, and Morcar is the guy. Like, who is this? And maybe they don't tell you who it is, and you just have to figure it out.
That would be interesting if they drop what we spoke about earlier, that Zargon, Morcar, by adding a few more quests to Wizards of Morcar, maybe there's a lore bit in there to go along that next bit in Carmine dropped. Maybe that would be the first expansion we see. You know, I don't think they're going to give it to us all at once. I think they know to stretch this out.
It out like a cliff.
Yeah.
Because we never fought Skullmar, right? He gets away, and that's that. And the point of that is so that you, the fans at home, can write that quest. Because it's not like they were planning a Skullmar expansion and it just never came out. No, it was never finished. And I know they said Crypt of Perpetual Darkness, Joe Manganiello's thing is not coming out. But I mean, his ended on a cliffhanger as well. It's like, oh, the nightmares just don't stop, what's next? And then you flip the page and it's like, there's the blank quest. Duh, you write it.
I do hope they work something out with him on that. I mean, a Mythic guy have it, but
yeah, he's going through.
Yeah, after the divorce.
Like, listen, Joe, we need you back.
He's probably doubling down on his gaming. I mean, if I was going through a divorce with a beautiful woman like that, I would probably be gaming hard.
Put aside the celebrity status and the money, and it's like, still human, still got feelings.
Yep.
Still got to be really rough. So, yeah. So, wishing you the best, Joe. His Bazargon says, remember that Wizards of Morcar story starts in Morcar's tower, Caltrack. That's right. That's true. Maybe Hasbro would extend such plot, including the Zargon himself onto the board as the very finale quest.
I hope.
Ubar says,
of course, he would get away.
Sophia,
I mean, let's be real.
After the dragon. Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, she did. Twice a one square tile unit.
Yep. So
dragon should be, let's be honest, 4. 2 definitely, but 4 probably.
It's just got like a one wing and like one of it's just like a peg leg.
I do like that model. I've heard some people say they don't like it. It looks more like a statue than a...
It does look like a statue, but I appreciate the effort to try to force it into a one square figure.
Yeah.
Like, instead of making it a really, really small creature, it's like it's still a big creature, but it's on top of a pillar. Almost like a chess piece.
Right.
Or, like you say, a statue. And, yeah, Ribby's Marvelous Miniature will prevent it from falling over if you want to. It's great.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to fight me. Neither. One square dragon is a great idea. Dragon looks weak. See, that's like a trapped dragon. The dragon looks weak. The dragon looks suspicious. Dragon looks dangerous.
He's a Drake, we could have said.
Mini 3D dragon looks great. I've had 10 body points.
I have seen his, yeah.
The thing is, I see these Dungeons & Dragons, and I guess Reaper Miniatures does it too, is you get these dragon sculptures, and forget this guy. Like, just imagine like a dinosaur that like picks up, he's got huge wings. It's like, how are the heroes supposed to fight that? Like, do you have artillery?
The wings always get in the way. Yeah.
You have like god level technology that you can just destroy this huge creature, or are you just supposed to run? What's the point? You just fight it with a ballista or something. You need artillery. So I picture like a HeroQuest dragon. Like, if you read some of the ancient literature, you look at the illuminated manuscripts from back in the day. I mean, there are dragons, but they don't tend to be that huge. Usually they're maybe the size of a horse or an elephant or a bull. They're not they don't tower over the whole castle kind of thing. I mean, they aren't world-ending dragons. I mean, I guess there are creatures like that too, but it's like when you see that creature, you're dead. There's no oh, we're gonna have a battle. Now, once video games become popular, then you can kind of imagine a little tiny Mario character like fighting a huge Godzilla-sized creature somehow. Gigantum Tiamat. Yeah, I always liked Tiamat in the cartoon. Reaper Bones, Temple Dragon is a great proxy, also 1 square size. Yeah, that's a good point, Hispazargon. Reaper has a lot of figures, and now with the remake, it's even better blend because there's similar plastic. And there's a lot of smaller dragons that aren't ridiculous in size. Fubar Jr. says, how do the heroes fight? How does a dragon acknowledge there's something poking it from the back? By the time he wakes up, he's dead from 1,000 paper cut. Ruby says, the Descent 2E Shadow Dragon takes up 6 squares. Well, see, Dragon Strike had a dragon that's only one, well, it's 3 squares. And that's just because he has a big tail. Warhammer Emperor Dragon from early 80s took 10 inches long. Yeah, there's lots of solutions if you want a dragon in HeroQuest.
Well, I'm a big fan of the. When I play on the neoprene mat that I'm sure you've seen that has all of the corridors are at least 2 tiles wide.
Yeah.
But it's everything else is exactly the same.
I care it's like he called it a German board. I'm like, what? Like I was thinking, it's not an official product.
I haven't heard that, but
well, he was calling it a German board, and I was thinking, no, the German board was the same as all the other boards. But yeah, this corridor and this corridor are double size, and then the one on the outer edge is double.
The benefit is it really does speed up the game. I've tried it. And when there's traps and things in those hallways, I just double them. You know, I put them across the whole hall instead of 1 square. Because it really speeds the game up. It prevents those bottlenecks that really I see like 50% of the turns are in those corridors. Even though the rooms make up 80% of the map. And then it also makes sense to get those 2-tiled creatures through the hallways. I know that's not a big deal, but I personally have enjoyed those. And there's a guy on, what is it? Dungeon, I don't know. I'm quoting it improperly. The Fast Drive-Through Dungeon or something like that, where he made mats, beautiful HeroQuest mats. I don't know if you've heard of those.
I've probably
his originals.
I don't remember what it's called.
I'm sure you have.
There's people on Etsy, there's people on eBay, there's websites.
Drive-Through RPG. That's worth that.
Yeah, I haven't spent much time on there. I just probably need to look. So yeah, if you come to HeroQuest Fans Discord, there's people sharing links like that. Feel free to share all you want, as long as it's not a scam. Try to put stuff where they're just flat out selling things. Just put it in the marketplace.
I may send this to you privately, actually, later.
Yeah, that's fine. I think Dwarven Forge was at Gen Con. I feel so bad because PSK was there, and he was at like this miniatures booth, and I didn't even know he was there. I didn't even think to check. But yeah, Dwarven Forge was there. I didn't go see that. I think
he builds the terrain, right? Dwarven Forge.
Yeah, where it's just like plastic, like rock.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, maybe a year from now, if I have my own place that's like got some more room, I could think about something like that. But for now, it's just, I mean, the German board, if you want to call it, that would just take up so much room. Like I barely have enough room on this table to do what I do.
I mean, that's always been the problem with D&D like miniatures is the dungeons tend to expand sporadically.
Yeah, because you're doing tile by tile. It's like, we're going off the edge of the world.
80% of people don't have a kitchen table, rectangular or circular or anything that really can control all the directions of that. It's just always been a problem.
Even my whenever I go to visit my family, I mean, you could put a couple leaves in the table, but it's the long way. It doesn't go the other direction. So we've tried like putting poster board down because we played Battle Masters, and it's like, so we had these big pieces of poster board on top of the table, like expanded. Actually, my brother-in-law came up with a solution. So if you have a pool table or even just a big dining room table, and they have these. It's almost like it's for photography. It's like a hula hoop that has like canvas stretched over it. It's for like lighting, or like you can do it for like green screen work. Like it's a big. I forget what it's called. It's like it's a screen. But anyway, you can set that on top of the table and put a tablecloth over it, and then that gives you enough space to do like Battle Masters. So, and Battle Masters is huge. So if you can do that, you could fit just about anything. Probably even like an advanced Hero Quest thing.
I always dug that about Advanced Hero Quest, the tile building. I know it's a different game.
Yeah.
It is fun, but the simplicity of the dungeon mat that it comes with, the base board game, is great. Like I said, the only mod I've ever enjoyed is the doubling the hallway tile, because you can still minimize it with the singular rubble tiles. You can still make intricate, kind of like, tiny hallways and things if you want.
Well,
but it does speed the game up quite a bit.
So I was never a war gamer, but I mean I have read a good chunk of the 3rd edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle core book, because I wanted to learn about the fertile soil from which HeroQuest sprang, back then with Games Workshop. So they flat out give you instructions. They're like, okay, you get your sawhorses out, get your sheets of plywood, and you lay them out and you nail them together, and then you make a table. That's what you're supposed to do. Put it in your garage, and that's where you play, and that's what you do. Now, a lot of people, I guess, what they just do is they hope that there's a friendly local game shop that doesn't charge them too much to, just set up your game there and play, and maybe they've got some cool stuff that you could use. Maybe take a shower, put on some deodorant, put on some nice clothes. Because some people
join society.
It's like I don't know. Some people just wander. It's like you're not playing in your bedroom. Just have a little consideration for the people around you. I mean, they're going to be sitting around you for a couple hours, so at least don't be stinky. Don't be too slovenly.
Don't be stinky.
Elver.
Good advice.
Yep. So that'll be the HeroQuest fans shirt. Don't be stinky. Elver said, well, see, and they also gave you well, this was the 40K book. I'm sorry, I'm mixing them up. But they were saying, yeah, you take a stick of deodorant and then you could use that as a hover tank. But it's like you still got to use the deodorant first. Get it? So they're encouraging the shampoo bottle, the soap dispenser. See, there's a reason. Okay, so Elverg says the camera setup would be nutty. Yes. I know a lot of people say when you play Battle Masters you should have like a reprinted board that's smaller, using like small pieces to proxy it, so it's more like this. But the full size set is just so cool. And yes, I understand a lot of old people can't, crawl around on the floor and get up again. Although I have seen people do that in videos. One way you can do it is this. You'd set it up on a table. Again, either building it or pushing some tables together, maybe, or like I said, with the hoop thing. But then you would have like one person that was recording. So as you're all sitting around the table playing, they're walking around with the camera, showing the different stuff. Or you do like some of these big YouTubers do, where they have multiple cameras set up. Like they have a camera for each person's spot. The only thing is you're going to have people walking around to their spots. Because, yeah, you have one person on one end and one on the other, but you're moving forward, moving back, moving all over the place. And that would be the same thing with, these modular dungeon games. Elverg says would need sports arena camera system to zoom across the board. Yeah, you get your little radio controlled drone with the GoPro on it, flying over the board. Stinky is legitimate strategy, says Fubar. It's like, no one will fight me. They all run away. Now stink your enemies. Yeah, but see, if you try that, these guys would come in and they'd be like there'd be like swarms of flies around them. It'd be like Pigpen from Charlie Brown. It could get ugly.
What's your Kurgan? What's your take on? I know you brought this up earlier. The briefly we brought up the Wandering Monk. I looked at those cards. I thought this is too powerful myself.
No.
What was your take on him?
I'd have to see him in action, but I don't think he'll be too powerful. I mean, we said that about the Knight and the Rogue, and they turned out to be fine.
I just feel like we start to minimize characters like the Dwarf when we get a lot of these high-functioning utility characters. I don't know how well to describe them.
That, and I mean, I guess I don't know this 100%, but 99.9%. This is going to be just like the Rogue, where they just give you the box and you just do what you want with it. So they're not telling you that he has to replace one of the 4 heroes, but you could play it that way. So if you think that the Dwarf is getting shut out by this guy, you can put him in instead of the Dwarf if you want. Stinkor from He-Man, he smell. Elberg says low defense requires to be in the heat of battle. Well, the way I see it, if he's not buying equipment because he can't use much, then he's getting a lot of gold that he can save for potions.
There's that. That's true.
Because he really has no healing. All he has is that one negating damage thing. But yes, he could run out of the room or just wait till the monsters are killed and he gets his powers back. And he could use them again and again and again. He's never going to get to fire unless there's enough monsters or if everybody else steps aside and lets him fight to get it. I think he would work best in the expansions where there's already more monsters and stuff like that. In the game system, yeah, he might have an easy time, possibly.
Well, I read it like he has the option to expend all the other abilities and choose not to use his action to replenish those abilities. So he could use the... I mean, when I read it, he has the option to, as long as no one's in line of sight, not on the board. They could be on the board, but as long as they're not in the line of sight, he could use an action for one of his turns, waste the action to regain his abilities, or he could just not use that action and say, okay, I have my Earth ones left, or I have my 1 air, 1 earth, and I know I'm getting closer to the boss room. I'm waiting as I get closer. I know I'm going to want to use fire. So he's holding off. He's kind of, there's a judge of balance. Should I use them all? Should I not? He's not forced to. He has the option.
Well, okay. I mean, I think that's a legitimate way to interpret it, but I think just basic what it says. I mean, assuming they don't change anything from what the screenshots are. If there are no monsters in your line of sight at the start of your turn, recover all exhaustion.
That's true. So if it says recover all, then I would agree with you. I thought it said he can use an action to recover all. I thought he had to use it.
No, that'd be one way to mod it. So I think it just is forced to happen.
If it's automatic, then I agree. Then I would try to play it as is. And I think the way to make up for the characters like the Barbarian and the Dwarf, let's say people say kind of what I'm saying, where the Knight, Monk kind of start to outshine them, is you can always make more equipment. There can always be a new equipment, because that's where they shine is, hey, they can use a lot of the equipment. The Monk, the might not be able to. Maybe there is a series of only dwarven weaponry that comes out in one of these.
I can show that on the big screen if you want. He's showing.
If you want to. Yeah. This is the old one. I have 2 Battle Master games, but the old one is still the tablecloth, but it sits on a 52 by 52 pub table.
Nice.
So it hangs over like an inch on 2 of the opposite sides, but yeah, right now it's just covered in stuff, so it's covered in bins and
heck yeah,
pretty much to the ceiling.
See, I only got a little glimpse of the Jacer workshop that time. Remember when your phone like fell over?
Oh yeah.
And it just, declined. And I was just like, oh man, I hope that like you didn't like, pass out or something. But yeah, we got a brief glimpse of your room there.
Props to Jacer. That's a proper tabletop den, my friend.
Very nice.
And
very impressive.
There's the hero bins. So each hero has their own thing with their cars and whatever they've earned. So
there's a party going on over there at Jacer's house.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got the fire going, barbecue, the pool. We were playing cornhole before. I was in the middle of a game
Nice.
when this game started, so
Nice. Well, I mean, we
I
can
played 2 games at once.
let you get back to it. You can tell everybody you beat the Frozen Horror, and you wept.
Well, yeah, I already told my wife.
To conquer. No, there's more. There's always more where that came from. So don't let us interrupt any awesome stuff you're doing right now. But thanks for sharing that. Warbuilder 22J, check him out on YouTube. Jacer's got all kinds of projects.
Yeah, close.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
Warbuilder J22.
Sorry, I always get it wrong. Warbuilder J22. Yeah.
Yep.
We've just scratched the surface. Like what you've been saying, the amount of stuff that you painted and like glued together and like done with your kids and put together with Lego. I mean, it's amazing the amount of stuff that you've done. So yeah, this is the Halloween video, and like you see the shadow behind him, and he's like, here, let me show you something you guys have never seen before. And then it just goes, Jacer, we've lost the feed. Somebody check on him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool.
A good hobbyist has a nice basement, and I tell you, a great many
Good workshop.
HeroQuest games have been played over barbecue. You get a barbecue, and you have a good little meal there, and you guys sit down and have a couple hours of
Yeah, it's like dinner
HeroQuest.
movie.
Man, it's great.
It's good fellowship. So Vergus, okay, let's see. Yeah, let me go back. So there's a few more comments in the chat. Thanks, guys. Fubar Jr. says, I thought it was a choice to redeem the monk skills. It does put you at a bigger disadvantage if you're trying to use a fire skill. Again, it all comes down to how the table wants to do it. Yes, agreed. Elberg says, the monk can't just sit on its 4th attack to unload. The monk has to be in battle to use it. Once it's used all 4, if the battle is still going, the monk is going to have a hard time. Because after he uses fire, he doesn't get him back until the monsters are out of sight. My point was, he could make that happen if he can run out of the room himself, if he's got that escape option, or run out of the corridor, I suppose. But he can't always count on that, guarantee it. And yes, his defense is going to be low, so the gold that he saves by not buying equipment for weapons and armor, he's going to be using to buy potions to give him healing and defense. But still, having to buy a potion every time you defend, that's a lot of gold to spend. Let's see. And yes, of course, as we know, the heroes can always share with each other. So there's so many factors. I don't think we have to just assume he's going to break everything. Because they have to assume that when you buy it, you may throw him anywhere. You could throw him into the game system, you could throw him into Keller's Keep, Frozen Horror, could be anywhere.
Well, I think his abilities make up for the gear trade-off.
Yeah.
I do see that they have the option to expand gear for Dwarf, Barbarian, and still the abilities can shine with the monk,
I mean, I'm
knight,
thinking
etc.
he could get some nunchucks.
Yeah, it could even be some
Yeah.
gear they add just for the monk. Yeah,
Maybe
for sure.
throwing stars. I mean, it doesn't have to make any kind of sense. It's just like we're thinking like ninjas, like.
I just think they're more likely to add gear
movies, you know,
than to add skills to the Barbarian Dwarf. They're more likely to add available gear to all those classes to balance out the.
And there's always the criticism that's always going to come up is, but now the Barbarian is even more boring. Listen, people like the boring Barbarian. That's why a lot of people pick him. They're like, dang, you're dropping me into this big fantasy world of tabletop gaming and magic. I just want to be the basic guy that just rolls the dice to attack. That's all I need. You know,
Right.
Or like BSK would say, treasure and fight. I mean, if you want that, you got it. You don't have to worry about all these, card management things. So Elverg says, and yes, it has some powerful abilities, but it does so at a risk of staying in battle to do so. Talking about the monk. Sure, he can run out, but if there's still monsters as Zargon, I'm going to start blocking doors. Fubar says Barbarian. Well, it's kind of like the wizard, too.
It's always the option. Some people think that, yeah.
Yeah, the Barbarian is like the easy mode, and the wizard is like the hard mode. But just remember, these heroes are not like necessarily competing for glory. Like, they're all part of a unit. So, yes, it's always the question of, well, which hero do we get rid of to replace with the new guy? I try to look at just like I'll look at a map, like to kind of get a gauge of the difficulty, I'll count up the monster body points. You can also do that with the hero party. Like add up the body points of all the heroes and say, okay, is it close to the 25 that you normally get? Is this going to be a problem? I mean, you think about adding a 5th hero. Well, if you had 12 mercenaries under the North American rules, that's another 24 body points. So you can stand to add one more hero. And I personally think, as we've seen, Frozen Horror, and I'm sure we'll see, Mage of the Mirror, you can add as much as you want, and it'll still be a decent challenge. Most of the time, it'll just be really, really long.
I think 5 is a very doable in all of the expansions that have ever been released.
Tell me if I'm wrong about this, but from what I hear with D&D, like it's supposed to be 6 to 8 players, and turns can take like an hour.
We play our campaign with 4. We actually recently, our campaign's been going 2 years. We've gone through a couple modules now. We level slowly. We like to do a slow, we've been going 2 years. My character is level 6. So we like to keep it a good pace because you get to enjoy all the abilities you accrue. And we just recently added a 5th character, and some people play 7. It's too much. Because there may be a night where if there's a lot of monsters on the board, like we're doing a fight versus a horde of zombies, or we could take all night. I may take literally 5 or 6 turns in within 3 hours. We usually play a 3-hour gaming session. So if you add a lot of players, it slows it down a lot and makes it more complicated for the DM.
So the one guy's out getting pizza, and finally it gets to his turn. He comes back. Hey, what did I miss? Well, not much.
Hey, people stray. They do. They'll be watching a YouTube video, and it's not great.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like arcade video games. So you got the D&D arcade game with 4 players. At 4 players, you're fighting a lot more monsters than you would with like just 1 or 2 players. So it scales the difficulty for you.
Like you said with the mercenaries, leave a lot of room for a 5th player.
Yeah.
The hit points.
But you'll notice the way we play with the interactive chat. I mean, normally you would never be able to bring this many mercenaries to the game. Like you could hire 12 at the start, and you bring them in, and there's no more. Once they all die, that's it.
Well, you're adding abilities on both sides of the table. Exactly. You're adding some for the heroes.
Yeah.
Some for the Zargon.
Once you kill the Frozen Horror, he's dead. There's no, second chances coming back. But I mean, some of the stuff you guys did, like the uncommon feats, like, oh, you missed the pit. Well, you're dead. Or you can never get across because you just didn't. But yeah, I gave you a lot of bonuses, but I also gave myself a lot of bonuses. And that's part of it is the medium. If we were just playing around the table, a lot of this stuff would be different. It just kind of
does get hard to balance the more you add, but I think it was pretty fair.
But if you're in a time crunch and you're like, listen, I don't want to spend 7 months to finish this game, well, then you're better off taking things out rather than adding things.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as a very respectful feedback, I enjoyed it. If I were to change one thing, I would make it so the amount of cards or someone can claim with gold, maybe they can only do it every 15 minutes or something. Well, to prevent someone from buying 5 or 6 things in a row.
Oh, and then shutting out other people from being able to buy stuff for a while? Or
because
too much?
Or just them. Maybe just the one user. I know that's harder for you to even keep track of. I don't think the system allows for it.
Originally, it was unlimited because we hardly had anybody in the stream. We were just getting started. People didn't know what we were doing or how it worked. Not many people had gold. Then I got the suggestion, why don't you lower the prices? The prices are too high. People can't. They have to lurk for hours and hours and hours to be able to get one thing. So I lowered the prices dramatically. Then people started using them. So then I put limits, but then there was some glitch where if there were any limits at all, it just would break and it wouldn't work. So I had to remove the limits, and then I added them back more recently. But then we were still like, oh man, one person bought them all, and now we're just sitting here doing nothing.
And I do love Fubar's support. Shout out to Fubar.
Yes.
He was the 6th player in that defeat of the Frozen Horror.
Well, because you never know. You might get people that are favorable to the heroes, and you might get
right. And so
of chaos.
let's say someone comes in who saved up a bunch of gold. If they want to claim 6 or 7 items in a row, it can drastically change the turn.
Yeah.
Whereas it encourages them to, if they really want to adamantly influence the game, hey, let me play over an hour and a half. I'll drop you something every 15 minutes, or and it wouldn't slow you down as much. Because I did notice that last gaming session, we spent a lot of time on divvying up loot, which I will not. I don't want to deter Fubar. Again, shout out Fubar, 6th member for killing the Frozen Horror.
Think about this. There's another thing to it. The buying phase, the shopping. For some people, that's annoying. That's like a chore. Like, come on, hurry up. We're not even playing. We're still figuring out what potions we want. Like, this is taking forever.
Right.
I don't take
it
that
is a
attitude
large
anymore.
time.
I look at it as that is still part of. You're still playing the game at that point. So you deciding oh man, I've got so much gold. Oh, I could buy this or I could buy that. Making a decision. The banter, oh man, what do you think I should get? Well, I'll get this. You get this. Well, could I have some of your gold so I can afford this other thing? What if I sell this other? That's part of the game. So I think the interaction with the chat, maybe that annoys some people, but to me, I'm just that's still part of it.
Well, I enjoy that part of it. Yeah, between the matches. Yeah, I do think that's so good. People are enjoying their victory. They're divvying up the loot.
But I also don't want to be just completely, out of it either. If everybody is bored by that, I mean, we'll try to curb it a little bit. But I mean, I'm doing this primarily. Well, I'm doing it primarily for me. But I mean, there's no game if it's just me. So I'm doing it for me and for the people I'm playing with, and by extension, the people in the chat, and then by wider extension, the people in the community who are watching. I mean, I want to think of everybody, but there's different layers of, focus. So, if it's boring for you guys, I need to make some changes. But if it's working, but it could be a little better with some suggestions, I mean, I'm always open to the suggestions.
What do the chat guys think? I know a lot of those guys were there. I've only been, I always lurk, but I've only been playing. I really enjoyed it the past 5 sessions or so. What does Verg and Fubar and some of these guys showing up think about the stuff? I'm curious.
And this was something that already was suggested, is that what if I also add some high gold prices for specific items? So none of this randomness or let Zargon decide or anything like that. Just you automatically get a Chaos Warrior, or you automatically get a Potion of Speed or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to make it a big premium, a 2,000 gold.
And put limits on it, because yes, it could be abused. Now, I am never worried that someone's going to break the game. I'm not worried that someone's going to be just everyone dies, or now everyone's immortal. I'll make my own adjustments if that happens. Trust me. I know people.
Zargon always runs the game. I think it was the last line in the manual, isn't it? Isn't it something Zargon always has?
But I'm also of the opinion that if Zargon makes a stupid mistake, you just live with it. The fact that there was supposed to be some slippery ice in the doorway, and I forgot about it for 2 days. Right. And then I was trying to bring it in, and you guys rightly objected. And it's forget it. It's not there. I had my chance. I goofed up. So just roll with it.
I didn't object. I just said that you had to end up rewinding back to the first hero that walked in the door, and that's what would have really.
It would have been more trouble than it was worth.
Yeah, I would have went either way. I don't mind how you want to deal with that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Ribby says Pringles can there. Very important. Keep up my screen, what? Bottom of a color-changing citronella candle, light activated. Oh yeah, yeah. So let me just show that real quick. If you didn't see it.
Yeah, that was last year. We bought the candle and we were burning it at camping, and then we brought it home and I used it up, and then it was sitting there. And when this thing came out and I saw the arcane prison, I was like, all right, I got to get the thing out of the bottom. So I took a knife and pulled the bottom wax out, and
so you got some LED
lights. Stuck it in the bottom.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was wondered about that. I haven't played the Elf. I haven't played any of these expansions past dabbling between Keller's Keep, Witch Queen. So all of this is new territory to me. I was always afraid to. I couldn't afford Frozen Horror in that when I was younger.
Well,
there weren't ways to get it.
we played Return of the Witch Lord, loved it. Played Keller's Keep, it pissed me off. I almost quit the game. I was so mad.
It's cool.
But I was 13 or whatever. So,
Yeah.
So, well, no, I guess I would have been 14 by then. Blame it on teen angst or whatever. So I wasn't as good of a sport. Now I look back and yeah, Return of the Witch Lord was better. I felt like Keller's Keep was the one where it was just like, how can we screw over the heroes? Let's think of all the ways we can just.
Oh, when I look at those and I think of the original quests, I think if you base it on properly rationing stuff and continuing through the storyline, bringing all of your gear and
yeah, of course,
it is more reasonable. But I find with most players, they use a lot of their gear every mission that they got from the previous mission.
Use it or lose it. You don't know if you're going to be back. Might as well.
Or most of it, right? And I feel like, okay, well, a lot of the math. Yeah, I mean, I always knew Frozen Horror was considered, because it is right after, like, isn't it Witch Lord or something? It's pretty soon in the series that you're supposed to do Frozen Horror.
I don't.
If you follow that,
I don't take that very seriously. That chronology. I mean, you either play the game system or you start with heroes that have that basic level of gear, probably.
But it was pretty rough. Like, even if you were considering, like, hey, these guys are bringing with them potions and things they didn't use, there's a lot of room where, no, it would still screw you over. It was still pretty rough with the bot. Yep. Because, like you said, the body points per quest were always kind of the judge of the best moniker of how difficult is this.
Now, some people have said, well, a better way is to take the stats of each monster and like add them up. So give them a rating. So 6 + 4, 5, 3, 4, and that's your monster rating. And then you get all those ratings together and decide. But I mean, you look at all the green icons and go, okay, that's 50. That's going to be easier and shorter than the one that's 120, or the one that's 20 is going to be even easier than that one. And you think, well, my party is 25, so it gives me an idea of how this may go. The
problem with all of those systems they don't account for is
the dice.
The distribution you encounter in one room. So like you open the final door to the boss, and of the 100, the 300 total points or whatever in that mission, you got 175 of them in that room or something.
The Frozen Horror has even more monster body points than Mage of the Mirror. So to me, this was like the final quest. I mean, they still give you 1,000 gold, which implies there's more quests. But I mean, those could be ones that you wrote, or it could be just victory points, Oh, so back to your original question. So we're getting some comments here. Fubar says, I've seen recaps of Critical Role. Oh, CR is challenge rating. That's Vert. So monster ratings are based on assuming 4 in the party. That's D&D. Okay, so Fubar says, I've seen recaps of Critical Role on YouTube. And I haven't watched it. They're run 6-ish players and do 2 to 3, maybe 4-hour session with a major break in the middle. Okay, Elver. So one of my best friends who went to Gen Con with, you'll see him in the video. I'm not going to point him out, but he is a big fan of Critical Role. He could tell you all about it. He could talk for hours about D&D. I mean, I've played like Star Wars D&D like twice, and with like 3 players, very small games. Simplified rules. I played another variant. It was like a superhero type thing. I don't even remember what it was called. So I am the last person to tell you about D&D. So that's why I just defer to all these questions to you guys. But I've enjoyed introducing D&D players to HeroQuest. It's been pretty cool, and they've been pretty cool. So like Strange Bus and PSK, both D&D players who had never played HeroQuest before, started playing on our stream, and we had a blast. Delverg says, I get like 3,000 gold per stream. Not sure who thinks there's not enough gold. Well, for somebody brand new. Yeah, we're not talking about that. The limits are like how many cash-ins there are. So like if I say only 8 redemptions of potions per quest, what if somebody takes 5? Now there's only 3 left. So I probably want to implement something that's based on time and based on gold and based on number of redemptions, like per user per stream. And it also varies with what we're playing. So if we're playing Mage of the Mirror, it's going to be long like this. It's probably fine. But for maybe shorter quests, maybe I should like tweak it, change it. And it all depends on who shows up. So Elverg says, what if coins are a pool instead? So viewers can donate gold. There'd be a Zargon player, gold cap. The players in Zargon can choose what to spend their gold on. Problem with that, Berg, is there isn't such a system in Twitch. I don't believe it works that way. It's all per user. So you get a certain amount of gold when you start out, and if you follow, you get more, and if you sub, you get a multiplier. So that's a pretty cool fire there, Jace. Do you mind if I throw that up on the screen? Throw up on the screen.
Yeah, you could throw that on there, but that his system could work. You just have to put an item that would buy Zargon gold or something, some type of resource that you'd be able to spend on whatever you felt that you needed.
See, the problem,
or they could buy you tokens that you could use to, get 3 tokens, and then you could buy either a threat card or a Zargon card or an upgrade, and pick your own what you think you need at the time. Maybe not a specific card, but you could say, all right, I might need something out of the Zargon deck. Instead of asking the chat to buy you a Zargon card, they could give you, like an evil wizard token or something, and you could have your own system on however many tokens to buy a certain type of card for you, or an upgrade or something for your monsters.
I hadn't considered that, MacGyver. Jacer. Yeah, you always have a good idea. Well, that's true. I was just saying the Twitch system is limited. It's you have points. Give this number of points, you get this thing. And you can adjust the amount, but people can't donate points. So yeah, it would have to be something indirect like that.
I don't want to overcomplicate your.
Yeah, I think, and it has to be simple enough that someone could who's never visited before, could click in and go, oh, I wonder what this guy has.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't have sit up straight, drink water, put on a hat. He has buy a monster card. Well, I know what that is. Here's my monster card. Where's my monster? So if it's something like increased Zargon's chaos pool or something, it's like, okay, well, that might require some explanation. So I'll think about it. Because I did make a short video explaining how to use the basic gold, way late in this whole thing. Thinking there's probably still people out there that don't know how this all works. So I probably should explain it. Especially if they don't.
I didn't until I was accruing it for many sessions until
because I
watched that video.
Yeah, I tended to explain at the beginning, but if you're watching it live, you miss that, and so then what do? Just ask, please explain it. How does this work?
Well, I'm curious what and Jace, I love you're at the fire pit with the Victory Fire Pit there. I'm having a beer with you. I love that you're doing a Thursday play session. I'm curious what's going on at the Thursday play session. The test session.
Oh, the play test?
Sorry. The play test. Are you thinking of new rules, or just I'm
working with
you have to say specific.
Until it's actually released, I can't say much about it. But some of us are doing a play test with another HeroQuest fan on a mod. So no,
okay.
I'm not working with Avalon Hill to do anything like that. It's not that. There's no NDA. It's just honor system.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was rules or what you were working on or what,
all I'll say is it's a modification of something that exists, and we're getting pretty good feedback, and we're close to the end. It's taken a long time, but I would say...
You're doing a few runs of various missions, or...
Well, it's a long thing. So we'll probably finish it up this coming Thursday, and then that'll be it.
Okay.
So I've still got you on camera there with the fire. Do you want me to... flip off of it?
No, the dog's fine.
Oh, he's taking on his wolf form.
No, the dog's fine.
It's a fair victory video, I feel like. Yeah. We've defeated the Frozen Horde. This is the post
Jacer's bonfire
kingdom.
Yeah.
Yes. It feels very apt.
They're eating their frozen yogurt. They're counting their gold coins.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, if people have too much gold, I could just raise the prices. And that'll just mean that the veteran players will have an advantage over the new players. But yeah, I don't think people can donate anything. You can cheer with bits, which costs actual money, and I'm actually against that because I feel like some people, I don't know, it's kind of like that gambling spirit. It doesn't do anything. It gives a few pennies to me, and it gives a lot of more pennies to Amazon. So, I mean, if you want to do that, I'd rather people like sub or gift a sub if they want to spend cash. And one of these days, I'm going to open that merch store, and you can buy T-shirts. I don't know what else to sell. Oh, it'd be so sweet if they had like dice bags or something. You know, something more gamey than just T-shirt, hat.
I think starting with the T-shirts is the most practical of ways to go.
Deodorant, shampoo, soap.
The deodorant.
What are you trying to say? I'm not saying.
Hero Quest, a flamethrower.
Kids love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fubar says potion prices I think are good. Yeah, it's like having your own alchemist shop or armory, especially if buying a round of potions. Yeah, I like that. It's like you're buying a round of drinks, you're buying a round of potions for everybody. But Merc and Monster Gold could be adjusted. Yes. So yeah, I'm taking all this seriously, guys. These are all good suggestions. It's just the question is, yeah, do I want to take the trouble of implementing it? Is it going to be a good long-term thing? I mean, if it isn't, we can always switch it back. Elberg says, let viewers choose who to donate gold to. So it'd be like, donate to the wizard, donate to the barbarian. Yeah, and it'd go into their respective pools to the players to spend as the game moves on. Well, that I thought about, but I thought, okay, chat gold and in-game gold are different.
The exchange rate is definitely different. Yeah.
So if I thought, well, if you spend 500 gold, it puts 50 gold coins into the pocket of the wizard.
Right.
Like
that makes more sense.
That's interesting. But it's just saying, like, yeah, it's almost like there's Zargon and then there's some other like lesser GMs out there that can have limited powers, and so they can decide that they've been in the game long enough, they can, like, you know, cast their little changes into the game. It's almost like that. You know, some of them are benevolent, some of them are malevolent. Trying to influence the world. Let's see. Yeah, these are good suggestions. Fubar says, I liked someone's idea a few weeks ago with prices per monster. So Goblin is the cheapest, Warriors, Sorcerer, Gargoyle is most expensive. Oh, so you're going to let people buy Sorcerers. That would be interesting.
That would be a rough one. I feel like the Sorcerer would be the one,
here's a Chaos
if not also the Gargoyle to exclude.
Lightning Bolt. Yeah, because the other thing is they got variable stats. Now, the fact that they've given us basic monsters with basic spells in Rise of the Dreadmoon would be a nice opportunity, easy to do. Another thing I was thinking with difficulty scaling, let's say we have a fifth hero. Let's say we have the monk joining the basic 4 in Rise of the Dreadmoon. We could implement the advanced goblins and the advanced skeletons. I mean, people seem to have accepted those.
I like the elite mobs.
Yeah. And rolling for the elites, like, what did you think of that? Like, I if I get a black shield, which is very unlikely, you get the black dice, so it's more likely to roll skulls. Blue dice, defend like heroes.
I like it when it's extremely rare like that. The black shield, what is that, 1 out of 6?
Yep.
18%, something like that. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is a fair.
But you notice I gave myself a lot of leeway. So with the upgrades, like, I just decided different things. I mean, I could have just made them elite every single time. And with the monsters, the random monsters, buy a monster for Zargon. I chose to do a random draw. So at first I was roll a d8, so the basic 8. So starting with Goblin, Orc, Fimmer, Skeleton, Zombie, Mummy, Chaos Warrior, Gargoyle, so like that. But then I was rolling a d11, so incorporating the why can't I think of it? Ice Gremlin, Yeti, Polar Warbearer. Now I did do a d12, and I thought, well, okay, the Frozen Horror appears, throws a spell at you and leaves. But then I thought, it's kind of cheesy, so just d11. But I mean, I could have just said, here's a monster. But I think that rolling the dice was easier, and thank you, Ribby, for making it easier, than like trying to shuffle these cards over and over. 'Cause there's so few of them.
Yeah, I mean the rolling the dice makes it what a linear distribution. You have an equal chance to get all of them.
Yeah,
I feel like
but it's like, well,
maybe
this
it
stake in
should
the
be
question
like
should be a stronger monster.
maybe you almost always have a chance if you're doing it. If the chat picks,
Yeah.
if they pay the extra gold, they pick. But maybe you have a chance where it's like, hey, you always get Wandering Monster unless you roll a shield, then you get X. Like maybe then you get, because a linear distribution is more like, well, a goblin's the same chance as a gargoyle.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you did a thing where it's like to simplify it, and then I mean, just I'm throwing this out. I'm not even thought through the numbers yet, but the chat could buy whatever they want. But if you were to get the monster, it would be Wandering unless you rolled the black shield. Then it could be whatever, and maybe there was another way you could roll the elite.
Yeah.
Because the elite does throw it off. I mean, I do notice too, the elite ramps up as once you get the elite chaos warrior. Heck, he's worth 4 elite goblins. I mean,
well, but even an elite orc, when you think about it, is quite a threat. The fact that he's 1 body point is like the one saving grace.
Right, just getting the double stats is significant in terms of the threat.
I'm not sure how I feel about the apps upgrade, because you can give all the monsters 1 extra mind point, and 1 extra body point, and 1 extra attack die, 1 extra defend die. So now everything has changed. So when you see a goblin, now you have to think, okay, he's got 3 attack, 2 defend. He's got an extra mind point. And he can attack or move, attack, move. So it gets a little complicated at that point. But even so, if you're just trying to scale difficulty, it can be done very easily, and it's also something people are already familiar with. Like, I don't feel like I have to do exactly what Avalon Hill is suggesting, but I mean, I'm going to take the suggestion, and knowing that they derive that suggestion from fan feedback as well means it all kind of comes together.
What is their take on? So, I mean, not to deviate, but related to this, the mind point. Mind points are underutilized. Fans seem to think that altogether.
Yeah. Well, mind point. The more magic you have, the more you're going to use mind points. But yeah, it's a way to kill the tanks that have the low rating.
With spells.
Mind points.
Yeah.
Well, but it's spell defense. So the wizard has more chances to resist spell than like the knight does.
I just wish there was something where it was like, hey, the wizard has a chance where, he could sacrifice 1 or 2 mind points and regain a spell with an action or something.
Yeah, I always want to regain the spells.
And I know because it can be drastically powerful.
Yeah.
With the wizard if he does that, but
I should print a potion of magic and throw that into the potion deck, because that.
Well, where the thing where it's like
in the double quest,
hey, if you lose 2 mind points but you get a spell back, that's a fair trade. I feel like, as long as it's not excessively used. Obviously he's not going to drink 3 of those in a row.
He might save them up.
Yeah, he might.
I mean, with the alchemy thing, it doesn't limit you, so you could just cash them all in at once when you really need them.
Yeah, and I just feel like that's something. And the furniture thing, I wish Avalon Hill, like, I love what they did in Dreadmoon with the alchemy when you run into the table. Yeah. I say, gosh, I hope, and then there's the elven furniture, right, in the mirror. I think, well, maybe the wizard could always regain a spell or have a chance to when he encounters a spell table, but the elf can only do it when he encounters the elf spell table. The wizard could do it in either, but the elf maybe, he
decides that no, it's not that one this time, so you don't get it.
Right. I like seeing the thematic when they did that, when they re-released the Elf in the Mirror and they put the new furniture in there. That was a big deal. I said, wow, this is great. And then, as in Carmine explained, like, we want to give you the tools to create more adventures. I said, this is cool. Yeah. Like, good work there. Give me a dwarf set. Give me more sets in the future. I'm down to create more adventures with that variations. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So more comments. Let's see. Ribby says, I have 25,000 gold coins at the moment. Elberg says,
Oh.
I'd also limit that the items have to be used per stream. Oh, okay. That would be interesting. Yeah, because thus far, I've just said, like, the combat cards go away at the end of the quest. But everything else you keep forever and ever and ever. And yeah, the streams, because a quest might take 4 streams to finish or more. Elberg says exactly, Jace. Oh, that was an old comment. Sorry. Fubar says part of the fun as a viewer is the chaos we bring for both sides. See, but as we've noted, how do we make them not bog down a session like last week? Well, yeah, fair enough. I kind of liked the fact that it was dragging things on, but then I was like, yeah,
I'm not complaining about that. I don't want to throw that out that I was upset. I had a good time.
If I didn't have something going on the next day, I'd be just like, yeah, sure, let's stay up till midnight and try to, like, just see how long we can drag this out. Because that's the sort of thing you do as kids. Like, oh man,
Yep.
It's not a school night, so we can just stay up until we can't even see straight. But yeah, the fact is, like, okay, it would be so nice to either finish the quest for real, or like finish it when we're actually wide awake next time. But yeah, we had extra time. So Elberg says, but yeah, I get what you're saying, Fubar. Elberg says, yeah, that's why I think the decision of items and monsters should be the players' or Zargon's choices. And using chat coins to help provide a pool of gold tokens to let them do these things would help. With the 30-second or so delay to the stream, trying to drop potions at the right moment is kind of screwy. Well, that's the thing. There's no delay for us who are playing as heroes. Virtually no delay. But there is a delay for the general group. I thought it was supposed to be 10 seconds. 30? That kind of sucks. I guess it depends on your system. I mean, your wireless carrier or your internet. Not everybody is on a 56K modem like me. So, yeah, I get it. Yeah, so the game takes longer because, yeah, I'm pausing. It's like being on a sitcom where you're like waiting for the laugh track to finish before you go on to the next line. Elberg says needs a balancing factor where viewers are able to help players with Zargon by participating, but not able to create an additional session where there's just a single counter left to finish the game. So when I was doing the Choose Your Own Adventure books, this was the suggestion I got. I think it was Strange Bus and maybe a couple other people. No, it was Darkhawk, I think. Sorry, they both probably made the same suggestion, but it was like just put the timer on screen and give them like 10, 20, 30 seconds to decide. But that's when it's like you just got 4 choices. With this, it's like, yeah, at any time someone could decide, oh yeah, I'm just going to cash in something. And then you're like, okay, what do I do now? But yeah, you're right. If someone's just like, boom, Potion of Dexterity to Wizard. There's no thought there. It's just as soon as you see it, you've got it. Now then the player is just going to have to react and go, oh, wait a minute. Now that I've got this Potion of Dexterity, I should do this. It's too late. But yeah, that's just the human factor. There's bound to be a little bit of a lag. And we just have to roll with it. But that's why I think for a lot of these things, I've been a little more lenient. Like, did I have to allow the hero to use the alertness to avoid falling into the bottomless chasm? No, I didn't have to. But I thought, this is appropriate. This is what the person bought it for. So why not do it?
And props to Jace for the chasm. He went for it. The group was like, we're getting out of this zone. He said, no, I need to go for this loot. And he did it. And that was an apt scenario. You allowed it to happen.
Yeah. Well, and
he took the daring chance.
The Ice Queen Spear got very little use because there was like hardly any Polar Warbears after that. Nevertheless, you got it. It's still a cool artifact. And who knows, you might run into some other frozen monsters somewhere else outside of their original scenario. Elberg says, banking potions, different cards, seems like it led to a scenario that had you second guessing even using some of the end boss abilities. Yes, that's true. I was having to decide between using cards to counter your cards or just use my spells. But actually a lot of the spells that he had Yeah, if you guys hadn't been storing up magic resistance, I would have paralyzed everybody, then nuked them with the fire, then command somebody to start killing everybody, then summon the monsters to attack from the back flank. But instead, yeah, a lot of his spells went unused. But, you know, that happens. Like, I've heard stories of people playing these quests just as is, and they're still like, yeah, we killed the boss before you even got an attack off. It's like, okay, well, lucky for you, you know? Because some people would look at that as, oh, it's stupid unless he uses up all of his magic, and then you kill him. It's like, well, you know, maybe you fought this far and you deserve a little payback. You know, it doesn't have to be a 3-stage, 3-course meal. So much depends on the group, the timing of it. Because when are you going to replay the Frozen Horror to get all the way to this point? But, you know, maybe you're going to just have a quest where you decide to just fight him and see how tough he is. You can warp to the last quest and do it. Elberg says, had the magic potions been used, it'd be a fresh battle. Yeah, like he casts a spell that explodes everybody's magic bottles at the start. But then how pissed would everybody be? They're like, what? You know, I saved all that stuff for a reason and now I can't use it?
No, but that is a good idea for a Banshee-based boss mob who has a chance to do that to a singular hero.
Or
like scream and then break their potions.
I forget.
In Dreadmoon, not to give you any ideas, but
well, who knows? That could happen. Well, in I forget what the Cloud of Chaos, not the Cloud of Chaos, but there's that cloud that has the hands in it. I forget what that does in.
That come up out of the ground, the two hands. Yeah, it's 2 square tile.
But what does it do?
I can't remember. I've only seen many prints of people making new versions of the tile.
Oh, I have to look back because Keller's Keep I don't remember as well. But in Wizards of Morcar, there's a different cloud that actually makes it so that I think you can't use magic within it.
I thought there was a firewall and a.
There are, but there's also like a cloud.
Is there?
And there's a variant because some of the sets they actually punched they put tiles in it, so it's like it actually breaks up into like 6 tiles that you could spread around.
Oh,
it was really intended to be
cool.
one tile. So I printed it out the other way so that I could have a variation.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
One of the statements about Wizards of Morcar is that the new spells are too weak, and the ones for the bad guys are too strong.
Right.
But that's in the EU system.
That depends too, but that's like the one expansion pack where mind points do matter because all the spells are like mental attacks or psychic attack type things where you each roll your attack and your defense dice based on how many mind points you have.
Well, they matter a lot against the Ogre Horde because,
Oh, maybe that's the one I was thinking about.
Yeah, with the tokens. Yeah, I think that's what you're thinking of.
But Ogre Horde is the preface to.
Yeah.
I think it is the prep. I think it's the one before.
It is.
Wizards of Morcar leads into it story-wise.
The quest play order is explicitly there. Because the beginning of Wizards of Morcar is, oh, you failed me. You know, now we've got to implement this other plan. But, I mean, it doesn't matter. You could still play Wizards of Morcar first and then play Ogre Horde.
Yeah, of course. Sure.
Warping back in time. I read issue 455 of Batman. Now I'm going back to read issue 1. Yeah, let's see. Oh, Liquorock says Cloud attacks you or warps you to a door. Cloud of Dread is basically magical darkness. It's in Keller's Keep. Okay, thanks, Ferg. Yeah, because I was thinking the Death Mist was in Return of the Witch Lord, but that's just the single tile thing. It's totally different. Okay. Elberg says, delay seems to vary week to week. Sure. I think a lot depends on your internet connection, maybe on the Amazon servers for Twitch, maybe on the number of people that are tuning in, what Discord is doing that week. Berg says maybe let them bank what they find, but put a limit on chat pots to either the session or per quest. Yeah, I can play around with that. It lets you limit, okay, you can change the price, You can limit redemptions per user, redemptions per stream, redemptions time per user, and time per stream. So all those things are possible. And I can just disable outright certain ones. I mean, I have a bunch of Space
Try
Crusade
it quest
ones
to
that are...
quest.
Yeah, I have the Space Crusade ones that are turned off. I have ones that I use for the game book sessions, which you haven't done for ages, that are turned off. Like, I try to turn these off and then turn the other ones on so that you're not scrolling through lots of options you can't use. So Cloud of Dread is basically magical darkness.
You mean when he says magical darkness, he means is a D&D based darkness spell where you can't see through it?
Well, let's
Gives you disadvantage on
instead of
defenses,
relying on my
etc.
memory, I can just look it up.
That's how darkness works in D&D. Is
Yeah,
you can't see through it.
Yeah, there's the Forsaken Tunnels of Zorzel darkness.
You just can't see. He's saying, yeah.
That's what.
I did download that quest, the Tunnels of Zorzel.
Yeah.
I haven't played it. I love that they do the promotional in between quests. I did see in your interview on Carmine said, like, you know, that is a promotional thing, but
Yeah.
I would like to encourage them to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was a little disappointed that Rise of the Dread Moon didn't have 3 solo quests. I like the option of, do I skip them? Do I do them with a group? Do you play them solo?
Now you only got
Well, especially when they introduced the knight. I know he said, and props to him for making up for the Guardian Knight scenario that everyone in the past community knows about. Props to Avalon Hill for listening on that. I just, like you had mentioned in a rantcast, it did feel like a afterthought to tack on the hero. There's no Ragnar miniature. The Guardian Knights are there in the story, like in a paragraph preface, but there's no solo quest in Dreadmoon. So, a lot of props to him for listening. I like they came up with a fresh new expansion intermittently with the releases of the old expansions. All of that's fantastic. But to your point, I did want that Ragnar miniature, even though I have the Mythic Quest ones, and I wish there was a little more backstory in the Guardian Knights. A little room to develop the Guardian Knights was there. And not to rant too long, but I don't like to see Avalon Hill use the excuse for the community where, yes, the fans can always make their own rules. Sargon can always make their own rules, and the system is built to encourage you to make your own rules. But I do not want to see Avalon Hill using that as an excuse to not make content. Because if you make the content, I can still always change it and make my own rules. That's a given. So don't tell me, and I don't want to feel like I'm being overly critical of them, because they have been really good, better than I expected with the re-release. So props to them. But I don't want to see that become a common excuse. Hey, we want to encourage the fans to come up with rules. No. Show me what you guys intend and tell me I'm always allowed to change it or move on from there. Anyway, sorry, that's my take on it. I don't know what the chat thinks. Or what you think. Yeah, sorry. Redcast. Sorry.
I wanted 2 knights in Rise of the Dread Moon. I wanted one with the helmeted one that they showed, but I also wanted Ragnar without the helmet. But I wanted him to be painted red, because I think he would have been good as having 2 knights, so that they would be giving us 2 knights just like in the Guardian Knights box, but instead of it being male and female, it would be helmet, no helmet. And there's your Ragnar.
Because you got to have the no helmet as the Space Marine commanders. Yep.
Well, I thought that it would have, it would be Ragnar's face, but it could still be a knight to be used on another quest if you wanted. So the whole thing where, we didn't want to waste this slot for a mini that was only going to be used once, but if you made it a red mini, it could have been used as any knight. You could have used Ragnar, could have been your hero going through the core system before you find out he's a traitor. You know what I mean? Like, you had that whole opportunity for someone that did buy this and the core game or some of the other games to use that night and actually grow fond of them, and even if they wanted to, name them Ragnar.
Name him
Yeah.
George.
The knight, the knight is really cool as a class, and I do like that. Obviously, us super fans are running deep with the Ragnar story. We love they took Ragnar from the original. They're developing the traitor storyline because it was always different between the English and the American release of Ragnar. Got a little more in the English bit of what happens with his traitorous bits. I would love to see and this is even going another notch. I would love to see a Ragnar mini in dread armor.
Sure.
The regular Ragnar mini, the dread armor Ragnar mini. I'm in for all of that.
I was hoping for the Chronicles of Sir Ragnar hero pack, and you'd have like good Sir Ragnar, evil Sir Ragnar, Bizarro Sir Ragnar,
Torch Sir Ragnar.
Sir Ragnar in a tuxedo. I mean, he's formal and dignified, but he's also here to party. T-shirt, tuxedo T-shirt. So yeah, you could do all those things, and why not? It wouldn't appeal to people who just want to play the game, but it would definitely appeal to like the collectors, the painters, It is
a super fan request. We've acknowledged that, but the base Ragnar, like you said in the interview, was, I think, even someone who just bought the expansion. Let's say they just got into it. I think they wanted that. In Dread. They're limited.
I think the canonical answer is he is a Chaos Warrior or a Dread Warrior.
Right.
So
correct.
You just use one of those. But I think the non-canonical, like, unwritten suggestion is just use the Guardian Knight. He's a generic knight. There he is. And the only way it doesn't work is if you're using him as one of the heroes. And then I guess whichever hero you don't use would be him. So, he just happens to look like the wizard today or whatever. Whoever was left out. But yeah, and I definitely agree with don't use, you can do whatever you want. You can make your own homebrew as an excuse to not try. Like, I think everybody definitely knows that. And it's like they could, and I hope they won't, and I'm sure they won't, but they could always use that. Oh, well, we intended it that way,
That's all I want to hear.
Steve Urkel
and I don't
down the stairs is like,
Yeah, I don't want to give any hate to them because I'm very impressed. They've exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. Well, if they were being very arrogant and if they had destroyed the franchise and were blaming us for it, which unfortunately is the kind of thing that's happened with some franchises out there, then yes, they would deserve some hate for that. But so far, they seem to be very sincerely trying. I mean, they're trying to get.
They're listening.
They're trying to get.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously.
To maintain that loyalty as well.
I like he even sat down with you for an interview. Props to you for going. I like he sat down with you for that long and just was willing to. Because I before you went, in the hype of you going, I was reading all the chats here on the Discord. And I did see he said something like, "Hey, if I see like a nerdy HeroQuest fans, I'm going to make room for you to sit down and do the talk with me." And I thought, oh, they're just saying that. They're being nice. They're not going to really right. And he did. So props to them.
Well,
for giving you the time.
And
for sure.
I mean, yeah, you read his LinkedIn profile and you think, oh, Chris Nato, this is a big guy. Like, he can throw his weight around and do what he wants. He's the boss. But I didn't know that for sure. I thought, for all I know, they're on a tight schedule and they're like, we can only, do this, and this. Maybe they had him on a tight leash. Maybe they could only say certain things. And like when I went over to Renegade Studios, like they didn't tell me anything. And fair enough, because they're probably in a very early stage, but nobody could tell me anything. So it was just like, it could have been like that. But yeah, he was very...
They're doing the pickup release on the HeroScape after the Kickstarter, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah. So the fact that they're still hyping it, and it's like, I was disappointed, but I kind of knew ahead of time, like, they don't have any program for the day. They don't have any information. I doubt they're just going to spring it on us. I mean, they would have like playtest sessions, they would have something, but they had nothing, and they couldn't tell me anything.
How did that go down, may I ask? Like, you were there for a couple days. I know you were trying to get in on some games.
Yeah.
Kind of hanging out. Did he approach you, or did you go talk to him? Hey, do you have time for an interview? Or he said, hey, I'll be off on these days. I'll meet you. How did that go down? I'm just curious for the fan
Sure.
minutia.
You're interviewing me now.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just curious as someone who watched all of it, who was
Oh,
interested
yeah.
in.
Well, before I did this kind of thing, I was very curious, like, how do these things go down? Because, so I can compare it to my experience 23 years ago, when I went to E3. Like, it was LucasArts. They kind of knew I was coming, but I mean, I didn't have any conversations with anybody. It was just like, they would just let people in to their little room where they were showing stuff, and you just kind of like asked a few questions and then you left. But like, me and the guy I went with, we just kind of stayed there for like as long as we wanted, because nobody kicked us out. So I kind of had that attitude with this. I thought, well, until they ask me to leave, I'm just gonna stick around, until I'm satisfied. So when we knew the exhibit hall, we knew where Avalon Hill was, because you could see on the map, and so we just kind of walked right in. And the friend that I came with, he was just kind of like, oh yeah, there they are. So I just walked right up. And of course, I'd seen pictures of Chris Nato from other interviews and Carmine. And so I knew what he looked like. And so I just saw him there at the booth, and I just kind of was like, Kurgan, hi. And I just like made eye contact and I shook his hand.
Were you rocking the wig?
Yeah, I had the
Heck
whole
yeah.
Mr.
Heck yeah.
Mr. Uncle,
Rantcast.
Dr.
Heck yeah.
Professor Zargon. Yeah, I had I need to make a Rantcast shirt. That's the other thing I need to do. But yeah, I had the HeroQuest fans with the orc with the shades on, and I had sunglasses, and I took the sunglasses off once I was inside. It was very bright, but it wasn't that bright. And I had the cape. Yeah, so immediately he turned around and he grabbed the because there was two of us, so he grabbed the Dreadveil dice and the scroll, and he threw that down, and he was like, and we've got other stuff here too. And so he pointed, they had like a big pile of those Frozen Horror like seconds dice that are more green, and they had stacks of those printouts of Nightfall, and they also had stacks of the pads of the Adventure Design Kit. So there was like two other people
Last
there.
year's Gen Con, the one that came out during the Frozen Horror.
Well, no, this is a newer one, because they've resized the icons so they're actually the right size.
Oh, that's right.
It's just that there's only one of each, so you're still really supposed to just use that as a guide to draw it freehand yourself. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, it was just like all that stuff, and I was like surprised. I was like, oh, whoa, this is cool. So I was like, okay, they're trying to bribe me. Can't let that hold me back from asking questions. But since he had said before in the Discord, like at first, yeah, I thought maybe he's just kidding around. Like, okay, if you see a weird guy show up with a big fright wig on, this is the kind of thing we have to deal with. But then he was like, oh yeah, you can do an interview with us, or we'll have a chair for you. It's like, yeah, we'll have a sit down.
That's what I remember him saying, and we'll have a chair for you.
Like I'll just be sitting there the whole convention, just like. Well,
yeah.
And Inspector Retro, he was like, and he didn't have, I mean, his plan, because I don't think he had any kind of formal agreement with them. He's just like, well, my plan is I'm going to demo HeroQuest. So it's like, okay, so he's going to get himself an Avalon Hill t-shirt, and he's going to sit there, and he's going to have them open up like a new set and actually play it with people that come by. But that was his plan. So my plan was get all the info I can. And once he said that he'd do an interview, I was like, okay, we're going to at least get one interview. But it went so well, and he basically was just like, yeah, you should talk to Patrick next. So Intergalactic Patrick O'Rourke. So I got him next, and then it was like, okay, and I should talk to Chris again, because he dropped a little hint about Holy Water and the Wandering Monk. I'm like, okay, that would be a really interesting one. But then it's like, well, Avalon Bill's here. I should talk to him. So he's just like, sure. Like, No questions asked.
Who was there? Not Doug wasn't there, right? Was that the
Doug
one who
Hopkins
wasn't
was
there?
not there. Yeah, and
Right.
Stephen Baker was not there, and I think the two people that
That
were
would have
on
been great
the-
if Stephen Baker was there.
Yeah, the two people that, and he's not that far. Well, I guess he's not that far from their headquarters, not necessarily from Indianapolis. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it'd be cool to talk to him. I sent him an email one time, but that was the only interaction I've ever had. Yeah, who else wasn't there? Yeah, the two guys that worked on the companion app, I don't think were there. And some of the like artists, the visiting artists they've had, were not there. But Tess, who wrote the quest for Rise of the Dread Moon, was there, and I didn't even realize until like after we were talking for a while, and it's like, oh, that was you, and she's like, well, I won't really do an interview, but I can answer a few basic questions. Like she was a little shy compared to the others at first. I thought, well,
Ooh, yeah, that would have been a great interview.
that makes sense because all these other guys have kind of been doing the PR stuff and they're in the public eye
Right.
like all the time. Like Avalon Bill does the social media, Chris Nato is like the project leader, and
Did Avalon Bill say he's not Zargon online?
well, I asked
Was
if
that
he was
him?
Doug Hopkins, and he said no.
Right.
But see, for some
Okay,
reason,
so we're getting it narrowed down.
well, he was making all these jokes, and I thought, okay, well, what's Zargon doing? He's making all these jokes. So I initially, like, that was my first guess, and I think somebody else did the same thing. But early on, he was like, no, it's definitely not. But I thought it'd be just kind of a funny throwback, because, you know, not everybody has followed all the side conversations we've had. It's just like, okay, we're going to relive some of that. So who the heck is Zargon? Well, it's not Doug Hopkins. Who is it? Can't really say.
Yeah, we're getting it down. You're getting down to the bottom line. A couple more Gen Cons, I think you're gonna figure it out.
I wish that I had. So I chatted with Craig Von Ness a little bit, and he and Stephen Baker were the ones that were like the leaders of the original HeroScape project. And when I talked to Craig Von Ness, it wasn't a formal interview. I didn't record it or anything. It was just he was just saying like, yeah, you know, I've been in the business for X number of years and I've done a lot of stuff, and you know, if I got bent out of shape for every project that I didn't finish, like I wouldn't have made it. You know, I have a whole, like, I forget what he said, like a whole garage full of like projects, and every so often I'll dust off a box, take it out, and kind of look at it and see what we can do. And he thought it was cool that the project was continuing with Renegade Studios, but he basically just said, yeah, they didn't really have any input into it. He can't really say what they're gonna do. But I kind of wish that I had taken the time to actually do a sit down with him. But I think I would have needed more prep just because I don't know as much about HeroScape as I'd like to.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, to me, it gets into the realm of army building,
War game, yeah.
which with Warhammer, it's already so expensive.
Collecting, it's like a Pokemon type thing, you know.
Yeah.
Because you were supposed to buy
I don't want to
your
say I don't
pack,
like it. It's
build
just
your custom
deterring
armor,
to somebody
army.
who's you buy into one of those franchises. It gets
It's like all your
if-
pocket money is going to go to this hobby, and you
I don't feel that with HeroQuest. I don't feel
yeah, I'm not taking
overwhelmed.
out a second mortgage so that I can buy
Right.
the expansion.
the meta of whatever current season.
Yeah, but I
Releases
think about like my spare time. Like this is probably my number one hobby for a couple years now because yeah, I take time out to. I like to watch movies. I like to go hiking. I, you know, read books. But it's like when I'm gonna get together with friends, I'll do that. But when I'm gonna play a game, it's like I'm not thinking, well, should I play Cyberpunk? Should I play, you know, Rifts, or should I play, you know, Skyrim or Fortnite? It's like no, I'll play HeroQuest.
Well, I enjoyed your reference to Short Bus on the last Rantcast of even the entire series of Indiana Jones.
Oh, you mean Strange Bus?
Strange Bus.
Oh,
Short Bus. I'm sorry, Strange Bus. I'm so sorry. I enjoyed that. He went and watched them because I had watched them with my wife in the past year.
Oh, cool.
The originals and stuff, and his take on them. And I did enjoy all those bits, in addition to the HeroQuest stuff.
Yeah.
The cinema take. So that was I enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I was surprised because I thought, okay, he's the kind of guy that would have seen these already, like many times. But yeah, other than seeing, I think, yeah, I forgot his exact words, but I want to say he saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
He was a fan of that one, he said.
Yeah.
I was not, but I enjoyed the fresh take.
Yeah,
You know.
it's always nice to hear that because there's going to be a difference between somebody who like binge watches the whole series and then watches the new one, or watches the new one first, then goes back and watches the original series, versus someone who has memories of seeing those years ago and then is seeing the new one with the idea that, okay, this is part of the franchise I loved. What are they going to do to it? I'm not as big a indie fan as I am of like Star Wars, so I was less
Right, of course,
invested,
I mean-
but yeah, I didn't think much of Crystal Skull. It didn't piss me off. It was just like, yeah, this is a lot of cliches about the, you know, old guy too old for this stuff, and you know, the new generation passed the torch. And I knew it was
To,
gonna be an old guy with a lot of CGI running around.
Tie it
I
into
never
that.
saw Dial of Destiny. I
That
have no
you
desire
didn't?
to. No, I have no
Okay.
desire to. Not,
I know,
not-
it's just-
not because, even though from what people have said, it's less bad than it sounds. Like, it sounds terrible. It sounds like an utter disaster. It sounds like a waste of
I don't
time.
want
It
to
sounds like it pissed me
ruin
off.
anything for anyone, so I can't comment on anything because it's, yeah.
I know the basic plot. I
The
spoiled
parts
it from
that would ruin it, if we want to get into a discussion about what ruins
on
it,
the rant.
would ruin the whole plot.
Yeah.
You guys touched on it. Yeah, I mean, I can't.
You should join us on the Rantcast.
Yeah, I can't. I would love to. I can't. I don't want to. I would love to get into. It would just spawn a whole discussion about the failure of modern movie making. But
Yeah, well, there is that. I just think
but
a lot of people that are put in charge of these nostalgic reboots or remakes
Kathleen Kennedy.
don't get it, or they deliberately
Right.
don't want to do that. It's like they almost resent the fact that they have this cash cow, and they're like, man, I gotta wait for this golden goose to lay these eggs. No, I'm gonna throw it in the microwave and cook it. It's like, you idiot.
I know it's
What are
brutal.
you doing?
Brutal.
Stop it.
Because there is they want to pretend there's no middle ground between the original fans and money.
You're right. And then when the
Um,
fans go, oh, I was kind of disappointed. Oh, it must be all your fault. You must be like the problem. It's like, what the hell? We're your customers.
Yeah, no, I don't like that because the original
Really
fans
gets me.
is why there's money. So I don't like the middle. I don't even like the middle ground argument of no. We're gonna bring in new fans. No, you will bring in new fans if you guys stick to the guns.
It's just such
of-
a lazy way to do it. It's like, we're going to get your foot in the door with the title, but then we're going to
Right.
give you some other product, the bait and switch. Like with the Indiana Jones, my thought was this, and I can't judge the movie because I haven't seen it, but to just say, listen, you know what? Indiana Jones is outdated. It's tired. It's old. Or, you know, it was fine in its time, and you can just never catch lightning in a bottle again like that. So what do we do instead? Well, let's make an adventure story just using new characters and a different world, and it doesn't have to be the same. You like, make National Treasure, like do something like that. Like, it doesn't have to be, we're gonna make Indiana Jones again, but we're gonna take it in some
Yeah, those
direction.
follow that modern movie.
Yeah,
What's it called? Arc, the story arc of the modern movie with the dazzle and the. Whereas, like, when you look back at that era of the late '80s to mid '90s, there were some real slammers there.
yeah, there were some really, it was the era of sequels. I mean, there were a lot of bad sequels as well,
Sure.
and there were a lot of, like, if you watch like the Back to the Future movies like in a row, you'll see that there's like tons of callbacks to the first
Right.
movie and the second and the third movie. And you can go, well, it feels kind of cheap when you do it that way, because in real life you would have watched them years apart, and it would be pleasant to remember those things. But when you binge them, it feels like stupid and lazy, and it's like, I don't like that. So there's a lot of issues there. But yeah, let's go back to the comments. Go ahead, say what you're going to say, and then I'm going to read the rest of these comments.
Oh yeah, sorry. To this related, that episode of the Rantcast, I was watching that, and the Hero Quest part of that. To bring it back to the Hero Quest part,
Power
and
Story.
to the Gen Con reference that we had brought up earlier,
Yeah.
was, and I mentioned this during the Rantcast, was, my
Oh,
I don't even want to say disgruntled. Ooh.
Can I say? Blasters Kyber rated us. I am so sorry. I didn't even see that. Wow, I'm so behind on it. Okay, thank you for the raid.
Yeah, sorry to deter the police. Yeah.
No. Go ahead. Okay, back to it. Yeah, I got to read about a dozen comments here.
Yeah, sorry. And I'm eager to see what people like Fubar and Verga, these guys, think in chat. Was if you've seen your interviews with in Carmine, please go watch those on YouTube. It was really great for the fan community. Is the bit where in Carmine was unsure what to do about something like a cleric class. I sensed a little. His take was, I don't know if we want to put religion in the game. My take was, well, it doesn't have to be religion. It can be, Church of the Light. He mentioned a notebook. He writes his ideas.
Yeah.
And on the one end he has dread, and the one end he has hope. And I see my take on it is there's an element of, in Quest we refer to it as dread or darkness, and hope or light, right? And you could call it the Church of the Light. You could call it whatever. It doesn't have to have an actual real world take.
Sure.
But I felt like he wasn't interested in it, and it's such, to me, a cornerstone of this era. And we have classes like warlocks and demons and things like that in the game.
Character types. There's no classes, but yeah.
I don't think it would deter anyone really. We don't have to get into. It's not about Christianity in Hero Quest. But to call it a force of hope, like maybe there's a chaplain character or just for the force of light.
Well, yeah.
Generic.
When they gave us the Wandering Monk, they didn't say, "Oh yeah, he's a Buddhist from China."
Right.
Like,
right, and I feel like
the
that.
Monk of
I love the monk.
Not telling.
And I know some people wanted that we talked about the friar.
Yeah.
To Marshall.
A medieval fantasy cleric.
But I just feel like there's still room for that with. I just felt like, hey, don't feel like we have to get too specific in Hero Quest and Carmine. Let it.
Well,
you can have a cleric, or you can have a chaplain, or you could have a theologist. I mean, I don't care what you want to call it. With a few abilities that are non-denominational, secular kind of. Don't make it. I don't want it secular. I don't want it.
I want 4 clerics or even 5 clerics, because I'd like one for each of the elements, because that's kind of what I kind of see the whole thing kind of being.
Yeah, I love hearing your take on that, Jace.
Now, if you're the Avatar,
well, if you had a water cleric, and yes, you got the water of healing or some other healing spell, it's that way. I think it's pretty easy, you know what I mean? Like, that's what he does. But then if you had like a fire cleric, even if he did something like warmth, yeah, it would barely help you, but yeah, he's helping, but he's really trying to buff your attack or another character's attack, where they would be more like supportive characters than they would be just a straight out thing. But,
yeah, I think that's the main bottom line for me.
Right, but their whole deal would be like, like, my god is fire, like, that's what it is. Like, even if not that it's specifically has to be a person or a fire deity or anything, but that's what they worship, fire. So the same thing with the holy water, like, it doesn't matter if it's holy water or not, like, the simplest holy water is salt water. And why? Because it has healing properties, you know what I mean? Like, you take a salt bath to help cure you and help you. You know what I mean? It's simple, and yeah, you're purifying your body, your spirit, your mind, whatever. You're relaxing and soaking in a tub. You know what I mean? But it's salt water, so therefore it's holy water.
Dr. Teal's spell card, or whatever.
Sure. Well,
the whole thing with just salt, like keeping like evil spirits away, or even iron or something like that. Like,
I like a mystic character as well, but I was referring to the Sorasil. They're both in there.
Yeah, Legacy of Sorasil, Paladin, Cleric, Mystic, Ranger.
I get Knights already kind of Paladin-esque.
But see, since they've already made clear they're not beholden, and in fact they're trying to actively avoid being entangled with Games Workshop Warhammer universe, and they're trying not to imitate too much D&D, which is still under the same umbrella with Hasbro. So it's like, why would I buy one product still make them
Yeah,
different.
but they got so much crossover already. I don't think this is
just say, well, no, this is the Hero Quest cleric is different than the
And like I said,
cleric.
call him a theologist, call him a priest, and then I like the mystic or shaman.
Yeah.
And it does not have to be it doesn't have to be words like bless.
They could have a different one for each thing. You know what I mean? If you wanted a cleric for like light or hope or even spirit or something like that, like where it was non-specific, but you could have a shaman for air, or you know what I mean, or whatever, a different one for each one. You know, if you wanted to.
Guys,
kind of already have like you druids and monks, but even if you wanted to steer clear of having the same D&D class of a paladin, you could just call it a crusader. Instead of smite, it has charge. You know what I mean? Like, it would functionally be the same, but not be tied to anything, plus still be their own thing.
Yeah, call him a Templar. I don't know. There'd be a million things you could call him. But, yeah, I feel like, I mean, there's a weird kind of tightrope they're walking, because on the one hand, they said up front, we want to develop the HeroQuest universe. We want to flesh it out.
Yeah.
We want to tell a story. We want to give you the lore. We want to give you the history. So I was expecting, like, okay, fine. So we're going to get the world map. We're going to get, you know, the origins of Zargon and
you got a taste.
We're going to get, you know, who is the king and what's the realm and what's the history of the elves and what's the origin of the orcs and all that. But instead, they're just like, whoa, wait, hold on, wait a minute. We're just gonna give you little chunks and little hints and bits and pieces and like templates, but we don't want to tell you because we don't want to step on toes. We don't want to. Yeah, it's like they're leaving it open deliberately. So for all intents and purposes, they're telling us, yes, the monk is the priest, he is the cleric, he is the paladin, whatever he can be.
See, that to me is a little bit of a cop out in terms of like
take a stand. Just say
it's okay to do both.
Here's the history of HeroQuest. If you want to change it, you can.
Well, they can make it vague still. Like this world map to me is a in that direction. Like you're wanting, which I want.
That's the other hemisphere. You're not looking at the other side of the globe. That there's more.
Yeah, give me. Tell me a little bit about the history, because honestly, the history can be so vague that I can still make up whatever we want at our table, but it gives us stuff to draw on.
Yeah, because most quests, it doesn't matter, because it's not like you're going, okay, to pass through the turtle village, at first I got to go over the mountains of the eagles. It's like, no, you're just like, wherever you are, oh, I'm in the land of the elves now. Okay, I guess that's a thing.
Yes.
You know,
you want your party to stop at a 7-Eleven 8 miles out of the way, you can make that happen.
Yeah.
But see, I just say, give us a take. Don't be afraid to do that, is what I want Avalon.
You're saying
don't be afraid.
They're being too timid. Yeah, don't be afraid. Well, I didn't get I mostly just let him talk and tried to.
No, and I love what you did. I would have not got what you got.
I've done a whole. So I have someone that I play with who, because of his own personal religious beliefs, does not feel that he wants that in the game. So I created like a demagicified mod, where it's not like supernatural magic. It's devices. It's alchemy. So. And
I'm with you, but what if I didn't want the warlock in the game? They already made the chance on that.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. Well.
So I'm with you. We can change that, but the warlock to me is more of a stand than doing the cleric. I agree with you. I think.
Well, I agree and disagree in the sense that the warlock was a stretch goal bonus, so that's still a small slice of the community of hardcore fans who are.
But sure, we got ghosts, we got skeletons, we got dread sorcerers.
Well, and there's different levels of it.
Like, what if I'm not into that? Yeah. And I am. I'm not trying to be a devil's advocate. I just want to.
I get what you're saying, and they're not going to please everyone. So yeah, people who say, "Oh man, there shouldn't be violence in games," they're going to say, "Well, this game is mostly fun."
Yeah, exactly.
So, oh, you just knocked the goblin unconscious. Oh, he ran away. You tied him up and threw him in a sack. Like, okay, well, you could do that if you wanted. But yeah, those people, okay, maybe they just won't buy the game. But with the monk, it's like, if you're offended by the suggestion that there's a religious character in the game, you just don't buy that one. But they're taking a gamble by even in
or change the rules.
But
You
yeah,
know.
but they're saying like some people are just gonna just not buy that. Like, oh, I don't want to buy that for my kids. We're not having that in my house, you know. But somebody else might buy it and go, yeah, and we're gonna turn him into Friar Tuck. Boom, done.
Right.
Or somebody else.
And I
is gonna
always
say,
thought
yeah, I'll buy some
I
different.
just thought the disposition was, and I'm not taking one side or the other. I'm for everybody playing the game. The most people, we can get the most families, the most, bachelors, the most anyone to play it would be great. I don't care who you are, but to me, that if you're going to add warlocks and evil wizards and stuff, to put a generic priest character is not going to deter anyone. Honestly, don't play with him or change his ability, make him so vague. Like I said, Church of the Light is not. I don't want denominational. I agree. I think I don't want to exile anyone from the game.
Yeah, because some people are going to say, like, listen, don't even go there. And other people are going to say, no, I want that in there. I want to be,
Well, I like the Necromancer from Wizards of Morcar. I like them going down a specific realm. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't have to. They don't have to call any group out. It's obviously a fantasy thing.
Yeah.
And the knight can reference the paladin. They don't have to be a paladin too, 1-for-1. I like kind of what Jace just brought up about elements. I see Incarnate wanted to work more of that in there.
Yeah.
I almost like wizards this is getting way out there. Wizards in the future being dedicated to specific elements, like someone who was a fire mage or got a bonus to that.
And I tried to ask the tough questions, and I knew that, like, eventually we're just going to have to. The interview is going to be over, and we're going to move on. And there's certain things he can't say, and there's certain things that haven't been finished yet. But I got the sense that they want to do a lot, but they're kind of holding back because, of testing the waters, not sure what the community is going to accept, what we're going to reject, what's going to cause friction with Wizards of the Coast as far as the stuff they were doing. So there's a lot of factors they're going with. So the fact that they could come up with a monk at all is maybe a small
and props to them.
Yeah, and I'm happy that there is.
I'm not.
I think
I don't want to come off like I'm overly upset or complaining.
For 2 seconds, I was disappointed because I was picturing like a Friar Tuck. I thought it could be either way. It's either going to be Friar Tuck or it's going to be Kane from Kung Fu. Who's it going to be? Like, okay,
I thought they were going Marshall, but I do want to still see support.
I want to see the wrestler. Maybe he's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Could be, right? Maybe he's AJ Styles. You don't know. So, okay, let me read some of these comments, and then we're over time. So I appreciate this after party discussion.
Yeah, no, sorry for the...
Yeah, y'all get 1,000 gold.
The rant.
And rant cast. Check us out. Okay, Elverg says, there's so much history with Sir Ragnar. So I understand Avalon Hill's point, but disagree with her decision. I also think, though, he is a one-off fight. This isn't the UK Return of the Witch Lord ending in Rise of the Dreadmoon. So there's still a possibility that Sir Ragnar could show up for something in the future. Yeah, and he admitted that. Because I always thought the flaw in the Return of the Witch Lord ending was that they just kind of dropped a bombshell on you. Oh yeah, he died on the way back to his home planet. Like, what? That's stupid. Like, don't do that to me. So instead, it's like, okay, well, here's a quest. Yeah, he is a traitor. Now you have a showdown with him. But they still don't say why he did it. They don't say, well, what were the results of his trial? Did he actually make it to trial? What happened? So they still left it open. Luca Rock says, did Incarmine say when the next big announcement would be? Well, he didn't, but he did say that PulseCon was coming up, so it's possible.
When is that?
September. And I won't be able to go, but it will be streamed live. Okay, Elverg replied. PulseCon has.
I thought it was an online thing. Is it a physical location?
It's a physical location, but yeah.
But it's all online. The PulseCon, right?
You should do a Hero Quest fan stream of it.
We could do a watch party. Yeah, the question is, is it open to the public, or is it only like celebrities and members of Hasbro Incorporated that go there? I don't know. Because I've watched some of it. It's actually really boring, personally.
Yeah, I get it.
Most of the stuff was just like, oh wow, these new products, they're so amazing. Show us these products. These are so amazing. It's just like, no offense. I know that they're not necessarily like showmen. They're game designers. So I'm not expecting a lot, but at the same time, yeah, I was just like, okay, well, is there any HeroQuest news? Tell me about that. I don't care about G.I. Joe.
Want to watch. But
Who
the
knows
thing
even if they-
last year was that like it was just a lot of comments about people that didn't care because they wanted the next thing to happen or
Sure.
they weren't interested in that segment the way
Well, right.
it was.
They still got their list of products they got to present, and yeah, no offense to anybody that had to do that, but it's just like, yeah, I'm just waiting. It's like, okay, I'll watch the HeroScape thing and I'll watch the HeroQuest thing, and then the rest is just filler to me. PulseCon, Hasbro's online con, is in 3 weeks. Okay, this is Verg talking. The Hasbro website for it shows that HeroQuest will be a thing for it, so I'd expect announcements or news there. You know, I don't think the new Adventure Design Kit is online yet. I don't think I've seen that. I think it's September 22nd. Okay, well, we can double check, but it's online. So PulseCon. So what will they say? So the Wandering Monk is already announced. So it's probably going to be Prophecy of Telor. But the question is, will it just be that? Or will they say, oh, and after that, I hope you've got the spirit, because there might be a queen coming. Like, I mean, will they do something like that? And it'll just be like, cut to credits. Or will they say, oh yeah, here's our release schedule. You know, just pretend that that's stuff that you saw leaked from those game shops didn't happen, and here it is. So Elberg says, being that we didn't get an announcement for an expansion at Gen Con, I expect PulseCon will be against the Ogre Horde. Well, Berg, I'm not sure about that because...
And Teller next?
Yeah, Prophecy of Telor in retail. Was Path of the Wandering Monk announced before Gen Con? I didn't think it was. I thought
No.
it was simultaneous. Yeah, we heard about it from the leak, but remember, the leak wasn't official. So those were game shops that had been given info from Hasbro saying, here's what's coming out next. And obviously, they were ahead of schedule. So we know that. I believe that. I believe it 100%. It's true. But the company themselves couldn't say anything until it was time. So they've already announced Path of the Wandering Monk, and I would say it's probably Prophecy of Telor. But the question is, in the timeline that we're seeing, I'm expecting Prophecy of Telor and then Spirit Queen's Torment are coming out this year still. And then January is Path of the Wandering Monk. So they jumped right ahead. They jumped over those. But we already knew about Prophecy of Telor because of the pictures. So maybe you could say, in a sense, that's already been announced, even though they don't have like an official like web page talking about it on Hasbro Pulse. So it's kind of confusing. So yeah, maybe they will just say, against the Ogre Horde, here it is. Because several people commented that the concept art that was shown on Facebook for that foam arena that they put behind the glass case at Gen Con shows the symbol that's on the Ogre Horde throne. And there's like a bloody arena with weapons laying around, which kind of vaguely resembles one of the tiles that was included in Against the Ogre Horde. You know, it's like the battlefield or the dungeon fight or whatever. It's like there's blood on the floor and there's weapons laying around. So
I mean, that is a Rantcast topic. They've spent a lot of time in that arena. They reorganized it for 3 days, was it?
Yep. Yeah. And I didn't realize until
I feel like there was some lore hidden in that. Like you mentioned the Zargon at the top. I guess worthy of a mention at Rantcast.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Yeah, so they're definitely playing a game with us, the super fans, and with the public.
Too much time went into that, moving that stuff around.
Well, I mean, what else were they going to do?
Well, I'm just saying, I feel like...
On the hill and...
Yeah, there was something. I feel like there was some Easter eggs based on what he said at the end of your interview. And that arena that's given us more of a taste we need to look at.
Other people posted photos. So yeah, first you saw the monks in the arena, and then I think ogres came in at some point. But yeah, Mentor or Zargon is at the top, as if he's overseeing what's happening. So that could be like Wizards of Morkar, because Morkar is up here. I mean, whatever. I read stuff into it, but I mean, I couldn't guess Rise of the Dread Moon. I was like, Rise of the Dread, everything but Moon. So I'm not the best guesser when it comes to this stuff. I don't know what they're thinking. Let's see. Well, so maybe Verg is right. Maybe against the Ogre Horde, they're gonna play coy, and then they're just gonna say, yeah, it's against the Ogre Horde. It's gonna be 10 quests. It's gonna come with double the miniatures, and the fancy dice are gonna be in there. Oh yeah, woohoo! Who knows?
Crossing my fingers for it.
Elverg says, I mean, we've seen the LinkedIn profile on who stated they're an evil wizard on Twitter. Oh, well, why don't you just say it?
Yeah.
Just say it then.
Put an end to it.
Yeah, just say it, Berg. I mean, I don't worry about spoilers. Nobody's told me who it is. I assumed it was Doug Hopkins, and apparently I'm wrong. So Major Asnable, hey, welcome. Ahoy. We're almost done here. On the topic of fan generation growing up and making the product after the first Transformers Bay movie and the G.I. Joe movie, I said, clearly, I didn't play with my toys the same way everyone else did. Well, I just hope that HeroQuest never gets to the point where they're churning out stupid products and then they're blaming the fans when they suck and fail. Like, if we ever get to that point, I'm done. So the fact that we're nowhere near that now makes me happy. And maybe it's the fact that HeroQuest is still relatively small works in its favor. That we do have that close connection with the designers and they still feel a loyalty to us. And it's not just so big that it's in the hands of somebody who can only see dollar signs and doesn't care about like the integrity of the product or who they piss off. They're actually trying. So that's good. That's probably the best thing.
Next 2 years are significant.
Yeah.
Because
and
Ogre Horde, Morcar, all those need a few more quests built out to meet the, like you had mentioned, previous expansion content, and then we're left to more Dreadmoons, more kind of, what do you got?
And who's to say that they have to just keep making new stuff forever? But yeah, at a certain point, it's like, are they just going to say, well, we've done everything we need to do on HeroQuest, Avalon Hill, you're going to focus your energy on something else now? Or are they just going to keep churning out products until they're like, yeah, this brand is kind of running out of steam. Let's just, like it's like a TV series that runs too long. Like, do you end it in the middle of some great storyline that never gets finished, or you just keep making it?
Seinfeld dilemma.
Nobody cares. Yeah, because they could keep selling it without creating new.
Well, I just feel like we're on the climb. I mean, I know we don't know the numbers.
Yeah, we don't know.
I just feel like we're on the early phases of building excitement about it.
Yeah, it's still pretty early.
That's my take.
Yeah, we're saying Rise of the Dread Moon looks good. I mean, we think it's good, but what is it actually selling? I mean, it's barely been out, Okay, so yeah, and thanks for the raid, of course. Elverg says, I'd like to keep the game agnostic personally. I'd like that to be kept player-defined lore. Yeah, well, everybody goes back to the satanic panic of the 80s and the fact that, from what I hear, because I wasn't into it, is D&D had like names of actual demons from history. And no, I don't believe that it's like people were really, getting taken over by spirits. I think there was kind of there was a moral panic about it. But nevertheless, with that game, they felt like, just like Harry Potter, let's like take stuff from actual history and put it in the game. Because we know it's fantasy, it doesn't matter, we're writing a fictional story. It's like you're writing, a novel about a guy, finding a secret map on the back of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence.
Well,
yeah, it's like whatever, it's fun. Nobody thinks it's real. But then again, maybe you have impressionable kids playing it, and you want your kids.
Well, that's why I said
certain presentation.
Church would be the most possible.
You're not going to mess with somebody. Yeah.
Because to have a medieval setting is the most rife time in history of religion. To omit it,
it's a big
is kind of like, of course, there's a priest somewhere with the kings and the queens and their gods.
They believe in something, yeah. But what I'm saying is, what I see Avalon Hill doing is delicately stepping around that and just saying, yeah, that's for you to fill in. Like, we know it's there, but we're not going to mandate what it is. Even though half the fans are saying, well, what's the canonical, religion? What's the pantheon?
Well, that's why I keep it, like I said, theologist or philosopher even as a character would be okay with me.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do that,
generic religion guy. And then
but if you want to say, if you want to put a warlock in the game, you're okay in this realm. No one's complaining about the
Yeah.
warlock. A generic priest, non-denominational. He's strictly an advisor to the king. We never have to reference.
Well, that's true. If they bring the warlock in as is, so it's like, okay, so he's bonded with a dark creature and he turns into a demon form. So what does that mean? So now
Yeah, what's the
figure
problem with a just a generic advisor, like a priest character? We never know.
Or
We
just
Like
give us
a
an
No
apothecary.
crosses, nothing like that. I don't want any of that in there. I agree with you. I don't want to
as an official
deter
product,
anyone.
as the
Right.
as the fan at your table, you can do whatever you want. But the official
Right, of
product that
course.
they're selling, it's just like a blank slate, and it's like you just put in.
Because they reference gods in Elf of the Mirror. There is a reference to the word gods and
Do they in Mage of the Mirror? I know in Spirit,
Mage of the Mirror. I believe so.
okay, in Spirit
Yeah.
Queen's Torment they do.
Oh, maybe I am.
Well, and in the
Thinking
Dave Morris
about it.
novels, there's references to Christianity. They don't say specifically
Oh,
what it's.
See, I never read the
has to
novel.
be.
I don't.
Yeah, and it's
But that's.
like
I agree.
It doesn't stop everything, and it's dead in its tracks. It's just part of the thing. It's like
But,
as you're walking out of the bar, everyone's crossing themselves, like, "Oh man, you're about to get killed," like, or it's
But
like,
if
"Oh,
you
you
have
get the
a,
holy water and you use it on the zombie," like it's just part of the
I
story.
like holy water in the game. I don't think it has to represent a group. And obviously, if there's a king and an empire, there's a group that is against darkness that is more about beliefs and just the move bless or the move. I think Jace mentioned the salt circle, and
Sure. Well,
there's things you could do that are so not less than a warlock
you could
or
say
dread wizards.
maybe this is
Well, that's
maybe-
what I was saying is that since you don't want to give us a cleric or you don't want to call him a cleric, that you could just call it an apothecary.
yeah.
Sure,
I can make
it
the
could be a
holy
healer.
water.
It could be a healer.
Alchemist, apothecary. I like the fact that basically the wizard is the default alchemist, like I've always been saying. Like I told you. Yeah. So I see this as like Chris Nato, like at least in his presentation, he's pulling back, or the team is pulling back from those explicit stuff. But if they thought that the larger, wider community was eager for that kind of stuff, maybe they would feel a little more bold. Or maybe that's a directive down from Hasbro. Maybe Hasbro is telling them, "We've
Right.
carved out this niche in Wizards of the Coast, and they're going to handle that stuff, but you guys just keep it generic." Like maybe they're doing
Well, like healer is like, I think that was even more apt. Who said that
because
was
before, yeah, in the old lore of HeroQuest, they definitely had more religious references, and that came close to Earth religions. And in the mythic tier stuff, yes, you definitely have more supernatural stuff. You've got ghostly orcs, you've got an afterlife, you've got gods, you've got demons, you've got a warlock. So
Well, my take is don't stray from it. Just be careful in your approach.
sure,
Is how do you want to adapt it?
yeah,
Because the support character who is the guy who wants to play the dude
Yeah.
who sits behind and heals and has a few abilities. Where's his role
hmm
with it being respectful to what they want to do?
yeah.
I think there's a room for that.
Do you want a big trigger warning on the box when you buy it that says, "Please note, we respect the religious beliefs or lack thereof of all of
Yeah.
our fans." Please note,
I mean, I
this
don't
does
like
not
obviously.
infringe on anyone's.
I'm more worried about their
thoughts.
fear.
Just create
of
whatever
doing
you
it.
want in this character. These are just guidelines. Like they could do something like that, or just
Yeah.
just come up with your artistic vision, share it, and if people don't like it, they're going to change it or not buy it. But obviously, they want you to buy it. So
Yeah.
the bind they're in is just like, well, how far can we go, or should we just
To me, to call it a
pull back?
cleric or priest does not step on anyone's toes as long as we never acknowledge what.
Monk and
Well, the monk has always been a separate, traditionally throughout these archetypes and all of these RPG games.
Yeah.
Monk has always been separate from a cleric or priest.
yeah.
WoW, D&D, they're not the same. They've always had their own role.
Fair enough. Yeah,
Even Friar.
because they're
Um,
bringing in ideas that you've seen in other fiction, because HeroQuest is supposed to be the easy, laid back, casual training wheels or beginner or sandbox version of all
Yeah.
these other things. So yeah, the barbarian reminds you of Conan or whatever,
But even in D&D, barbarian's a class, and then you have separate fighter who can be knight.
so there's expectations.
um,
Yeah, And I think
And-
early on, people
Well, if
like
you had
Shadzar were worried, okay, this is going to be D&D light, and we don't want that. So it's like there's a sense where, yeah, they want to keep it separate. So maybe it's not just the religion thing; it's also we don't want to make it seem too similar to this other game.
I agree they can do what you're saying and appease both realms of fans. The people who don't want it to get too specific and the people who want that support role built into the game.
Yeah.
With I think they have the room to do it. My thing is, hey, Avalon Hill, don't be afraid to build stuff out.
Yeah.
We always have the tools. That's what makes people frame it as, oh, this is D&D light. I've always thought of it as, you know what it is? It's a RPG fantasy archetype system where it gives you the room to deviate how you want to.
Yeah.
That's where it gets into like we're doing with the rules. That's the beauty of this, where it gets harder in D&D to deviate. This system lets players deviate a little more with what they want, but don't be afraid to build out a little bit of history, keep it vague, and approach all those similar classes in D&D. You still do it from the rule perspective of giving us the opportunity to change it how we want. Don't be afraid, Avalon.
Yep.
That's all I gotta say. That's my last.
Well,
that's my last
I
bit.
also want to say historically, a lot of the alchemists were clerics and priests.
Yeah, you want to get into Hermeticism and stuff? That's a whole nother rant.
So I mean, some of them were Christian, some were Jewish, some are Islamic,
Yeah.
some are pagans.
Yeah.
So it was all. So the sky is the limit as far as what you want to do. So I doubt there's ever going to be like a Bible man character. But if you
No,
want
and like
Bible
I said,
man
I
in
don't
your
want
game,
that.
Go for it.
I don't want it. I don't want a Wiccan character. I don't want.
Yeah. It's
But
probably
I like
best
him
if they
giving you
don't-
the base deviation. To me, when I heard him in your second interview say holy water was a big thing, he talked about writing it in his book, how he was thinking of solutions to holy water. And I said, hey, Nato, there's no reason to think of a solution to holy water. It's vague enough already.
We'll think of it for you.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You got it. You
Works.
keep it there. We
yeah,
you know, the word
that's
holy.
right there. It's in the.
Yeah.
It's almost like a water spell at that point,
Yeah.
but
well,
it's an attack
but
based on the thing.
I see the other issue.
They could do
because it's like-
purifying fire or anything else, and it would do the same thing and be the same thing. It burns away the undead. Assault circle would prevent them from
Yeah.
coming near you or make them exit the room.
Add some other
You know what I mean?
cultural
Like, and
things.
that
Yeah,
would
like
be
you're
that
saying,
would be
salt circle.
earth-based.
guys.
I like that.
Right, and that would be an earth-based one. The holy water would be the water-based one. Purifying fire would be a fire-based one. And like a cleansing wind or something for the air. Or maybe that would be the one that pushed them out of the room, and the salt circle would prevent them from entering the room. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. And it would all work against undead, like a cleric's ability
Yeah, wrap it up.
only works really against undead, but it's not, you know,
I
there's
love
no
Jace's
religion in it.
ability just to stream
Yes.
thought process.
I do.
He has this gift of like,
Yeah. You've got a talent. You've got it for sure. And guys, I'm enjoying this so much, but we got to wrap this up and we got to go. And I know I'm going to say one thing and then you're all going to think of like 10 things to respond to, but I just want to get it out. So please save your answers maybe for the next rant cast or the next stream, because I'd love to continue talking about this. I see another issue, which is that essentially you're just making like lots and lots of wizards. Like you've got one wizard that gets his powers from the elements. You got another wizard that gets his powers from demons. You got another wizard that gets his powers
Sure.
from God or whatever. You've got another wizard that gets it from, I don't know, dust and potions. You know, but they're all wizards. So yes, there's the imaginative angle of, ooh, I would love to take control of a character that reminds me of, you know, Gandalf, or that reminds me of, you know, Kane from Kung Fu, or it reminds me of Friar Tuck. But they both kind of play into it. But from a game mechanic standpoint, you're going to say, okay, well, how are the cleric's holy powers different than the wizard's element powers, or the warlock's demon powers?
Well,
you know?
Well, the fact that
Say that about
their
the Knight
devotion
Dwarf and
is
Barbarian.
to one element, so they would be more like an elf
Special.
than they would be. They'd be more like an elf than they would be a wizard. You know what I mean, in that regard, because they would be devoted solely to one element
Yeah.
instead of one.
Well,
you know,
and they make a mess of it with the elf by giving you the elf spells, which are now a mixture of things. Unless you divide it back up the way the original draft had it, where you had like time spells, nature spells,
Right. So instead
I do
of
want
instead
more
of the,
spells.
right, so the cleric would fulfill the role of like the old elf, where they can wear armor. You know what I mean? Where the wizards can't. You know, and that they would, you know, but like I said, be mostly supportive. You know what I mean?
You can only
But
wear holy armor. See? You go. It's
I'm saving it for the rantcast.
saving for the Rantcast. Okay. All right. Let me just get through the last comments, and then we'll see if we can raid somebody and call it a night because we're past time. But thank you guys for the conversation. This was great. Haven't
No
Great
problem.
victory tonight.
in a while. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay. Thank you for
or
playing.
maybe how like the monk can't wear any armor and has like a lot of
bears in here.
weapons restrictions. The
Yeah,
cleric
bear.
would have like
Bear.
a special like weapons that they really can either just like upgrade or whatever, but not really buy another weapon.
Chaser, I want you to leave your comments in the Discord because I'm going to forget some of this stuff because I'm getting tired and also because I'm kind of like wrapping things up. But I know you've got more to say. I know you
All right.
have more to say. Thank you for the contribution. I'm just going to read these comments. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, we talked about PulseCon coming up in September, possibly the 22nd. Check the online. Elverg says we know who the Evil Wizard Zargon on Twitter is. If you just look at LinkedIn. Fubar says, oh yeah, he already talked about. Okay. Elverg says, I'd like to keep the game agnostic. Okay, read that already. I was making a joke about Captain Planet and the Fifth Element multipass. Is that music from Creepshow? It might be. I prayed to the four winds and to Crom, says Lukarok. Conan the Barbarian reference. Fubar Jr. says, I like Jace's
Grom.
idea of a cleric with the elements, but I see it like the elf with a choice of one of the four elements. Also encourage us to buy 2 packs so we can do a 4 cleric fight throughout Witchlord. I want a vampire hunter with the whip class. Yep, so you get your Castlevania. Well, we did have the whip for Indiana Jones. Elberg says I'm fine with clerics, but keep it agnostic. Yeah. And I'm with you on that. Keep it agnostic in the product because players will just fill in the blanks anyway.
Yeah.
Elberg,
The power of the light, baby.
Yeah. Elberg says they didn't define that the monks are from a HeroQuest Eastern culture. Well, yes, yeah, that's the thing. It's like China doesn't exist in the HeroQuest world, but we've got Shaolin style monks. I mean, it could be whatever you want. Or Japan or, you know, any other. Europe doesn't exist. So I went into a detailed post with Amalgamash on it. Yeah, Ash Quest. Check it out on YouTube. It's a cool channel devoted to tabletop gaming for Amalgamash because his main thing is he does like video games and programming and that sort of thing in his main channel. But then he got into the world of HeroQuest and he was never the same. Elberg says they can easily be from many places in the HeroQuest world. Yeah, because it's not Earth, but clearly they're referencing stuff in Earth just in a different way. They did good by not defining that history. PulseCon is online only. Oh, okay. All right, well, there's your answer then. So I was wrong. I wasn't quite sure about that, Elberg, but got it. So we don't have to worry about trying to fly anywhere. Just watch it online. It's a pre-order event. Yeah, it's the Ogre Throne icon that I saw was it. Yeah, and a lot of you guys noticed it way before I even looked at it. Like, I was at the conference and I didn't see some of that stuff, so good eye, people. It's Bill. It's Avalon Bill. So he so I talked to Twitter Zargon. Listen, sir, your jokes are, I thought my jokes were bad. Okay, you literally asked Zargon if someone else was Zargon. Well, see, that's how he gets you. You just never know. Elberg says, I'm not offended by defined religions and games. I just don't think HeroQuest specifically should have it based on sandbox-style game. Well, and the way we've talked about it, the religion stuff is all in the ancillary material, not in the games itself. I mean, unless, yeah, the vague references to gods and demons occasionally. Warlock is fine, Cleric is fine as well, just don't define it to a religious sect. Generic powers, elemental or light versus dread, whatever, all good. This is stay away from saying X god is providing their divine powers upon these heroes. Yeah, it's not Sigmar.
Yeah.
Unless you want it to be. I mean, you can always put Warhammer
That's
in there.
that's an excuse app for them to say players make up what they want.
Yeah.
To me, that's a valid way to say.
That's a valid place for them to say, you guys do whatever you want. We want you to make it up. So Elverg says stream delay is 15 to 30 seconds. Chat read delay is about 15 to 30 minutes. Yeah, well, Verg, aren't you the one that complained that we were taking too long on our rooms? I mean, that's just the way it is. Kurgan is officially starting to pumpkin. Yes. Yes, Fubar. So yeah, we're 30 minutes past. I'm losing my voice.
That's
Thanks,
my
everybody.
fault. Sorry.
No, it's fun. So I think there's a couple of bots in here that we need to ban. But we've got plenty of real people. Gons Grim, Papa Bear, thank you for joining us. So we're done with Frozen Horror. Congratulations to the heroes. You can carry all your stuff to the next quest. Those heroes will be available for anyone to use. So next week, the plan is maybe to do the rant cast, maybe not. We're not sure. I mean, we did take a break, so it would stand to reason that it's probably going to be rant cast time on Thursday, unless Strange Bus can't make it, because I know he travels for work and he's got some family and health stuff to deal with. So, you know, we just kind of play it by ear. But Friday, the plan is to start Mage of the Mirror, probably Solo Quest 1, slightly modified with more than one hero. So whoever joins us, 2 p.m., I believe, till 4 Central Standard Time, US, on twitch.tv/HeroQuestFans. And then Saturday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, same place. We're going to be starting Rise of the Dread Moon. And I will have to kind of get my bearings again because I know it's a new quest. I'll have to kind of like reread some of those sections of the book, get my tiles organized. I have not reprinted any cards or printed out any new cards for that. So I think we'll be starting with the basic system. But maybe a few weeks in, I might have a few extra things to add. But I think we can probably import most of our rules that we've used. I think I'll probably hold off on using like the elite monsters and the Zargon cards until it's clear that like we know where we're at. Like if everybody's having an easy time, we can kind of throw that in. If it's challenging enough without it, we just won't do that until such time.
What was that Friday time again? You mentioned Central?
2 to 4 p.m.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's great.
Saturday, 6 to 10 p.m.
Perfect. Okay.
And I put a hard stop. Well, tonight I didn't, but usually I put a hard stop at 10 just because I got to get up. So tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I don't
drag
want
a
to
little
deter your
bit,
work.
but this was kind of a special occasion, and I do want to make a video where we just kind of do a scroll of heroes, like of all the people who played. So all of you who played in the last 7 months, or the last year actually, from PSK and Blue Star and Count Cogpox and Jacer and Ribby and Darkhawk and Strange Bus and Richie Boy and so many other people, some of whom are here, and I just can't remember all the names. But I'll get a list of names because I have all the videos. And if someone wants to give me a count of all the mercenaries that were killed, I think Jacer's probably the closest as far as that goes. That would be cool too, to put in like just a quick like little tribute video to all that.
I think that's just, I might only have the last ones, I think for either 9 and 10 or 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot of mercenaries, and
Probably 50
I don't know how many more were going back before then.
Yeah. Yeah, because they didn't start until Quest 4. Well, anyway, let's see if there's anybody we can raid. I kind of doubt it at this time of night, but let's take a quick look. Okay, we've got El Funko. I think I was going to raid him last time. He's got 60 people. Good discussion. Thanks, Elverg. Jacer was saying that they have elemental spirit weapons, flaming sword, earth axe, water whip, air spear. Yeah. Well, if they get into Grimdead, I mean, there's a lot of quasi-religious stuff in the Japanese quest pack, or game system that could be source of inspiration for those who want it, even if it never becomes official. Okay, all right, we're going to end the stream. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Have a great week. We'll see some of you Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we'll go raid El Funko. Catch you next time on HeroQuest fans. Good game.